All right, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to begin with the expedited accusation calendar, and that's with the State Court of Fulton County. These are a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Upon being booked in, their cases were accused by the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, which is the prosecutor in this particular court. So today, this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. When I call your case, I will be addressing each of your cases on a one-on-one basis. I will advise you of what is your new case number or accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, who is going to be your counsel, and give you a new court date if it's applicable in your matter. Now, I'll also set a bond for most of the cases if one has not been set before, or if a particular bond needs to be modified. Some of you may receive what we call a signature bond or a sign-on bond. That is a bond that's issued either through pretrial services or through the jail. That's a type of bond that you do not have to pay for at the present time, but you would have to comply with certain conditions. If you violate any of those conditions, including failure to report to pretrial as required, your signature bond will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. The other type of bond I could possibly issue would be a cash bond or a surety bond. And those type of bonds you would have to pay either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company in order to be released on bond. And bonding companies typically charge between 10 to 15% of the total bond amount. Now, how you qualify for the particular type of bond, whether it's a signature bond, a surety bond, or cash bond, will depend on the nature and circumstances of the underlying offenses, your criminal record history, and any other arguments that are presented by your attorney. If you are a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. If you would like to add anything during the proceedings, I highly recommend that you exercise your right to remain silent and let your attorney speak for you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, or if you've not had a chance to retain one for this particular proceeding, one of our attorneys an attorney will be appointed to represent you, and one of the attorneys will be either from the Public Defender's Office or from the Conflict Defense List. I see that we may have a couple of private attorneys on Zoom. So courtroom 2, I don't know who's the deputy there. Who's deputy in courtroom 2?
Good afternoon, Judge Law.
All right, Deputy Francois, thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Judge, let me just add that the reset date for the SAP calendar is January the 9th.
Okay, that was my very next question. Thank you, Ms. Bridgewater.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right, yes, good afternoon, Judge Law. This is going to be position number 18, Miss Montgomery. Oh, actually, yeah.
Are we staying with Miss Montgomery?
Yes, and then after that, I want to do Miss McLeod's case. She has 2 cases. I just
I noticed a couple more private attorneys, so please take a note of that, Deputy Francois. Okay, we are addressing Nicolette Montgomery, State versus Miss Montgomery, 23 CR 8231E. Miss Montgomery, you've been accused of simple battery, family violence, and one additional count of simple battery stemming from a December 24th, 2023 incident. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be, who's counsel? Is it Mr. Cook? Miss, who is counsel for Nicolette?
Tamisha Cook turned her camera on.
Oh, Tamisha Cook. Okay. Now you guys are going to trip me up because I have PD Keith Cook and then I have Miss Tamisha Cook with a silent E. So Miss Cook with the silent E, I'm going to address you as Miss Tamisha just to avoid any confusion. Okay. All right. Miss Tamisha, you are representing Miss Montgomery. So pre-trial, may I have Ms. Montgomery's back, GCIC, please.
This defendant has one arrest cycle in Georgia. Their last arrest was May the 30th, 2022 out of Fulton County for fraudulent use of a sales receipt and theft by taking. That case number is 22 CP 209456. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Ms. Reddick or Mr. Abdullah, I'm not sure who is chiming in.
Ms.
So
Reddick.
unmute and chime in.
It's me, Judge. How are you?
All right, Ms. Reddick, good morning. Good afternoon.
Your Honor, on or about December 24th, 2023 at 566 Fletcher Street Southwest in Atlanta, Fulton County, officers arrived at that location after receiving a 911 call from a Miss Kivana Williams, who is the sister of our defendant. When they arrived at that location, they were advised that the defendant got into a fight with her other sister, Nicola, Nicola Montgomery. When they pulled up from the Wendy's, the two sisters engaged in a verbal altercation that the defendant made physical by striking Nicola in the face. When Nicola attempted to retreat in her vehicle to leave, her sister, the defendant, then pulled her hair and pulled her out of the car. At some point, they stopped fighting. The defendant then entered the property and engaged in an altercation with her aunt, Miss Andrea Leonard. That altercation moved outside, and the defendant again began attacking her sister, Nicola Montgomery, outside, and the aunt was trying to break it up. The defendant and Miss Andrea Leonard lived together at the incident location. That's why it's a family violence battery on that count. The sister, Nicola Montgomery, does not live at the incident location. Your Honor, there's currently a bond set on the simple battery family violence of $2,500. We would ask that that does not change. We would add to it anger management, stay away from the incident location, and no further contact with Miss Andrea Leonard. We added the charge of simple battery for Miss Nicola. We would ask that the bond be $2,500 on that, no further contact with her. And there would also be a caveat on both charges of no drugs, alcohols, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, and I'm sorry, so that was a total of how much in surety bonds?
$5,000, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Tamisha?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Montgomery is 20 years old. She's lived in Georgia all of her life. She does currently reside with her grandmother, and that is the incident location. She's completed high school. She is employed at Amazon and Chick-fil-A. She is in jeopardy of losing her job if she stays in custody too much longer. It is our position, as you know, that you're presumed innocent unless until you're proved guilty, but that these allegations, she was acting in self-defense. So we will be asking the court, due to her limited criminal history, purpose of bond is to ensure that she reports back to jail and that she's not a danger to herself or others, for a signature bond, nothing further.
Yeah. On the simple battery is going to be $3,500 on the simple battery domestic violence. On the simple battery basic is going to be $1,500. Total bond is going to be $5,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. She's to have no further. Are the victims here by any chance? Kivona Williams or Andrea Leonard or Nicola Montgomery? Any of them on Zoom? All right. No further violent contact with the victims in question, Kivona Williams, Andrea Leonard, and Nicola Montgomery. And she's to report to pretrial twice a month. Miss Bridgewater, this will be a level 2 reporting. And while she's out on a signature bond, she will attend 12 anger management classes and obviously no consumption of any alcohol, no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. If she decides to move addresses, she needs to update the court of her new address within 30 days of moving. Her next court date will be set to her current mailing address, whichever it is. Miss Montgomery, I'm giving you a signature bond and a requirement that you have no violent contact with your aunt and with your sister or anyone else that you live in at this particular location. If you decide you cannot live there, you move, you need to let us know what's your new address. If you violate any of the conditions of this bond, including the no violent contact, or if you get arrested again, or if you fail to attend the anger management classes, Your signature bond will be revoked. You'll be back in jail and you would have to pay for your bond the next time. The 12 anger management classes must begin within 30 days of being released from the Fulton County Jail. So by your second or third visit to pretrial, you must show proof that you have begun your anger management classes. Any questions, Ms. Tamisha? No? All right. This case is further noticed. Thank you. Next case.
Okay, you're done. Number 16, Mr. Lundy.
Okay, Marcus Lundy's case number is 23 CR 8225C, in which he's accused of simple battery family violence from December 24th. Mr. Lundy, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Any prior?
Oh, Your Honor, it's going to be me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right.
afternoon.
You're absolutely right. Miss McLeod. Sorry about that. And yes, your attorney is Maureen McLeod. And with regard to this accusation, Miss Hardy, any priors?
This defendant has 24 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2011 for false imprisonment and a CWAC charge, 2023 aggravated assault, battery, cruelty to children. They're on probation for that case. The number is 23 SC 186603. Their last arrest was July the 26th, 2023 for a probation violation out of Fulton County. The recommendation for pretrial is a UJR level 3. Nothing further to report.
No, thank you. Okay, prosecutor, Mr. Hollins, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Judge. Yes, the state is going to be making a recommendation on this case in regards to the simple battery family violence charge. The facts of the case are that the officer was dispatched to the incident location for a dispute call. The officer did speak with the victim, Miss Tiara Hood, and it's TIARAHOOD. Officer spoke with Miss Hood, who advised that she was in a fight with the defendant. She stated that the defendant came home arguing with her about him coming home late from, I guess, from an event, and he didn't answer the phone. She was not necessarily happy about that, but while they were arguing, that the defendant began attacking her by striking her in the head and in multiple places on her body. The officers did not see any visible injuries, which is why it is charged as a simple battery family violence, Your Honor. The two did live the incident location. The incident location is 1474 Venetian Drive, and that's VENETIAN Drive Southwest in Atlanta, Georgia. The state is going to be recommending there's currently no bond given on this. The state is going to be recommending a $7,000 surety bond in this case, Your Honor. Considering his history that he's currently out on the probation for the ag assault with the battery, the cruelty to children from just this year. And then there's the previous history regarding with the CWAC charge, along with the two theft charges back way at the beginning. He does have multiple probation violations stemming back from 2023, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, and 2015, Your Honor. And has FTA twice in the past as well. The state is recommending no further contact with the victim and a stay away from the incident location as well.
All right. Miss McLeod, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't know if the alleged victim is on the Zoom, so I would ask the court to sound for her if possible. I was not able to reach her.
We'll do Tiara Hood. If you are present and you'd like to contribute to the proceedings, Tiara Hood, you would need to unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. McLeod, I'm getting no response.
Your Honor, my client is 43 years old. He shares two minor children, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, with the complaining witness. He tells me that they have been living together for approximately 3 years. My client is not currently employed, Your Honor. He tells me that he has not been working for a few months now and is actively seeking employment. He is not in a position to pay for bond at this time, Your Honor. And given the fact that pretrial says that he is qualified for a UJR, I would ask the court to consider giving him that, because otherwise he will not be able to bond out because he doesn't have the wherewithal right now, having been unemployed for several months. He also denies, Your Honor, that it was a physical fight between them. He said it was just an argument between them, and he denies that he struck the alleged victim. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Understood. Thank you. My concern is Mr. Lundy. Was just arrested earlier this year for a felony assault and battery with regards to a tiara hood, for which he pled guilty and is still, I think he's on probation for that case. And now we are right back to square one with the same victim. And Mr. Lundy, perhaps you don't understand, you are on probation, felony probation with regards to this case. And my biggest concern is now for the safety and welfare of the alleged victim. Bond is going to be set at $10,000. Is going to be a surety bond. He is to stay away from 1474 Venetian Drive in Southwest Atlanta. No further contact with Tiara Hood and the children that he shares with Miss Hood. If there are any children that he shares with Miss Hood which are not a product of a marriage, he may file a legitimation action to seek custody and visitation with those children. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And I hope that the Solicitor General's office is contacting probation with regards to this arrest as a violation of his felony probation matters. His next court date is going to be January 9th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Law, I have a quick announcement for Mr. Quincio. We need a Spanish interpreter. I just wanted to make sure.
I'm right here, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, we'll let you know when.
Yes, ma'am.
As soon as possible, just a couple more cases, Ms. McLeod and Mr. Reiner's cases.
Number 14, Mr. Lavel. That's a private attorney case.
All right.
Morning, Your Honor. Afternoon, Your Honor.
Afternoon, sir. Good to see you. All right, let's begin with Mr. John Lavel, case number 23 CR 008224J. Mr. Lavel has been accused of criminal trespass, family violence, and disorderly conduct from December 24th, 2023. Mr. Lavel, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Steve Weiner. And with regards to the charges brought against you, I would like to know if you have a GCIC. Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has no history, and the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 1. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Prosecutor, Mr. Hollins, what's the state's recommendation?
Yes, Judge, the state's going to be making a recommendation on the criminal trespass, family violence, and disorderly conduct charges. The facts of the case are that officers were dispatched regarding a demented person called at the incident location. Officers did make contact with the defendant inside the garage. He was visibly upset, sweating, clenching his fist. He was pacing back and forth, stating that he didn't want to injure anybody. According to family members, he came in irate, and at the time they tried to calm him down, but he continued to get more agitated. He would not calm down, and so they locked themselves into a room and called 911. While they were waiting, they heard him yelling and screaming outside, and he eventually went upstairs and punched a hole in the wall. The victim is going to be Miss Catherine Lavel, KATHERINELAVELLE. She is his mother. She stated that the defendant is in college right now in Hawaii, and that she is okay with him returning back to the residence. However, the state would be concerned that with the MH diagnosis that there is, and considering there was a lack of not having his medication, we would be concerned that that be a part of his bond. And so we're asking for a $2,500 surety, no further violent contact, and MHET only if he's not already currently undergoing some type of treatment, and then of course compliance with any medication orders or anything that are already in place.
All right. Catherine Lavel, Mr. Weiner, I'm going to sound up for the alleged victim.
They're here, Judge. She and her husband are both present.
All right.
The father.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Lavel, if you want to chime in during this proceedings, you are free to do so. You need to unmute and start your video. Otherwise, defense counsel will proceed.
Judge, if I may,
You may.
and if the court has any questions, the parents reached out to me to hire me to represent their son. As indicated by the state, he's 21 years old with no prior history of anything. He has had some history of bipolar issues through the years.
Well, we'll just
but
refer
has
to it
seemed
as
to be-
MH issues then.
Excuse me?
We'll just refer to it as MH issues. I don't like to disclose their.
That's fine, Judge.
on Zoom.
Anyway, that he has been fine for several years. He is in University of Hawaii, and the parents are very comfortable with him going back to school. They are not in fear of him coming home, and so they have no objection to that. And of course, the court can address that with him. He understands. I had a long talk with him yesterday about this issue, and has agreed to seek counseling back at school immediately. There is no medication issue at the time. If it's determined that it's necessary, of course, he will agree to do it. But this has been several years since it was necessary, and we would ask the court to allow him a signature bond with special conditions, of course, with no violent contact with his parents, and that he seek treatment once he returns to school. Everybody seems to think going back to school is in his best interest.
On the criminal trespass, family violence, that's going to be $3,500, and the disorderly conduct is going to be $1,500. The total bond is going to be $5,000. It's a signature bond through the jail. No further violent contact with Catherine Lavel. He may return to 5730 Lake Heights Circle. Did I write that in right? In Alpharetta. He would need to enroll or continue with his MHT and be compliant with all treatment and medication as prescribed. If he fails to do so, if he fails to report back to court when required, he would be subject to a bond revocation. Now, I don't know whether he'll be in Hawaii or when his next court date is, but currently we have the Lake Heights Circle in Alpharetta. So, Mr. Weiner, I'm going to leave it to your discretion to decide when he needs to take a ticket back home to attend court.
That's fine, Your Honor. I have been retained to represent him throughout this entire matter. So I will, Vita, my assistant, of course, is on vacation this week. So I will be filing an entry immediately when she's back. And of course, we'll keep the court and be prepared for any further court dates.
Just like the
I'm
old
assuming-
days.
I'm
Just like
assuming-
the old days, sir. You're one man
That's
job. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything else, sir?
Now, is there a new accusation number on this matter?
Yes,
Since it's been
that would
accused?
be 23 CR 008224J.
And, okay, that's fine. I don't know who the J is.
I couldn't tell you right now, but it's criminal. It's Judge Besson, and probably you would have to.
That's why I need to know to notify the clerk's office to
Yes.
send that. So that's fine. I just always need to ask.
All right, understood.
Thank you,
And-
Judge.
All right, you have a good holiday. Take care.
Take care. You too.
Miss McLeod, your next client is it a Thornton?
No, Your Honor, it was Mr. Parker, but I understand that there's been an NOD on his case.
Would that be correct? Let me just check.
Yes,
Oh,
Your Honor.
Jonathan Parker. I'm not sure why I was thinking Jonathan Thornton. Yeah, Jonathan, that was an NOD. So
Yes.
if anybody is involved in the Jonathan Parker case, the misdemeanor charge against Mr. Parker has been closed out, so there are no pending matters. Francois, is there a Jonathan Parker in the courtroom?
No, that is correct. He's a null cross.
Okay,
Not here.
so I see there's a okay, so that matter is then resolved. Ms. McLeod, did you have any other cases?
Well, Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court today.
All right, enjoy the rest of your holidays then. Thank you.
Oh.
Francois, may we have the Spanish case involving Spanish interpreter?
Yes, I was just getting ready to ask you about that. So it's not on the calendar, Quincio, Gary, Yardley. I wanted to see, has it been,
It's position 19 on the calendar.
is it?
And who's the counsel
Okay.
for Mr. Quincino? Who is counsel for him?
I am, Your Honor.
Mr. Misha, are you counsel?
Yes,
All right, and have you had a chance to speak with your client through an interpreter?
I have not.
All right. Francois, if we can set up the facility where we can place Mr.
Breakout.
Misha, Ms. Chansey, and Mr. Quincino in a breakout room?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
that'll be done in courtroom 3. So if you can give us a minute.
Will do. In the meantime, I'll
Your
take.
Honor, I had a bad connection, but that does conclude my business before the court. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can we go to ACDC?
Yes, I was just going to ask courtroom 2, Director Francois, I'll be at ACDC until you bring up the next case. ACDC, Deputy Thornton, are you near the monitor?
Yes, give me a minute. I'll go unlog it. But right now we're gonna have Miss Favors, Shakita Favors, position 5.
Okay. This is addressing all the 4 individuals at ACDC, including Ms. Favors. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to be addressing the charges under which you've been recently arrested. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say about the facts of your cases, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. And this is Miss Favors, which is, give me quite a few cases today, folks. So give me a moment to just go ahead and get to the right page. All right, Miss Shakita Favors is accused of theft by deception, and her accusation number is 23 CR 8219G. Miss Favors, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be is it Mr. Misha?
No, it's Keith Cook.
All right, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
All right, and Miss Hardy, any priors on Miss Favors?
This defendant has 23 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2001 for possession of marijuana, felony possession of marijuana where they received first offender treatment and it was sealed in 2005. Misdemeanor conviction in 2021 for battery and theft by shoplifting. 2021 felony conviction for criminal damage to property and aggravated assault. The last arrest was June the 9th, 2023 out of Gwinnett for a probation violation. And it appears that they're on probation in Gwinnett and Cobb County. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 3. Nothing further to report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Abdullah?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
While working an off-duty job at 61490 Old National Highway in South Fulton, the Walmart, officers were notified by loss prevention that the defendant was at the register scanning expensive items at a lower price by using barcodes for cheaper items. Officers confirmed that the items that the defendant took were 1 hoodie, a pair of socks, stockings, and 2 scooters, totaling the amount of $842.92. At this time, the state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond, a stay away from 6149 Old National Highway, Walmart, and no drugs, weapon, or alcohol. As you heard from pretrial, she does have an extensive record of 24 cycles, These 24 cycles are made up mostly of theft, property, and drug charges. Her last arrest being 2022 for theft by taking, as well as more than 5 probation violations and FTAs. At this time, we feel like she's a high risk of reoffending, and she has also proven to not be successful on supervised release. And so at this time, we're asking again for the $2,000 surety bond. Nothing further from the state.
Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, we would have no problem with a stay away. We would like you to accept the pretrial's recommendation of a level 3.
Bond is going to be set at 1,500. It is a surety bond. Next court date is January 9th, and to stay away from all Walmart stores, not just the one at Old National Highway. She's forbidden to enter and approach any Walmart store. And if she makes bond, she would need to make sure her address is current with us at all times. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons and firearms. Thank you.
So what do I need to pay?
It's $1,500 surety bond, so you can either pay the whole bond amount as your collateral for release, or you can pay a portion of it through a bonding company.
Okay, so if I cut the bonding company is 15%, right?
Between 10 to 15, correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Judge Law, real quick, did they already go into the breakout? If I'm not mistaken, I think
I saw courtroom 3 disappear from the screen and Miss
Okay.
Tanisha, so I think they did, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Number 15, Ms. Lloyd.
Jasmine Lloyd is accused of battery, family violence from a December 24th, 2023 incident. Her newly accused case is 23 CR to 8226J. Ms. Lloyd, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and Mr. Keith Cook, you represent her. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Your Honor.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Hardy, any priors on Ms. Lloyd?
This defendant does not have any history and is recommended for UJR through the jail. Nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge. State's going to be making a recommendation on the battery family violence charge. Officers were dispatched to a person injured call, and when they arrived, Grady EMS advised that they were treating Mr. Kenneth Crawford, Kenneth, last name Crawford, Crawford. They were treating him for injuries to his face and his arms. When they spoke with the victim, he stated that he only called to get his injuries taken care of, but did confirm that the victim, that he went to a Christmas party without the defendant, and she was upset that he went. The victim eventually saw information after an argument ensued. The defendant saw information on the victim's phone that she did not like, and she began reaching for the phone. And during that time, she scratched, causing a laceration and bruised his lip. The laceration was on his right arm. The bruise was on his lip. The state is going to be making a recommendation of $2,500 surety on count 1, a no further contact, and a stay away order, Your Honor. The incident location is 942 Hank Aaron Drive in Atlanta, Georgia.
Is that where they live, or where? I think they, or unless I got the wrong address. Do we have an Amal Drive?
So the Amal Drive is where he was being treated at, but the incident location was the 942 Hank Aaron Drive.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Holland, for some reason you've disappeared from your screen. Or either that you.
I'm
there
sorry,
you go.
I hit my little tab over thing and I forgot I did it.
No, I just,
Stop the
I
video.
thought you just blended away in the screensaver. Okay. Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 32 years old, has lived her entire life in Atlanta. As you heard, she has absolutely no record. She disputes the characterization of the accusations, and I believe she should be given a signature only bond. Could be through the jail, or she would accept pretrial.
Okay. Bond is, now for some reason, the prosecutor the original charge was simple battery and the prosecution has upgraded it to a battery family violence, a more serious misdemeanor offense. So Ms. Lloyd, your bond is presently going to be 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial. You report to pretrial once a month, level 1. You are to have no further violent contact. In other words, no physical or verbal altercations with Mr. Kenneth Crawford. If you both live together, there would have to be peace and harmony. Otherwise, you would have to leave the premises. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current address at 942 Hangaren Drive. Is that correct, Mr. Cook? Is that where she lives?
I've got the mall address. I was not aware of the Hank Aaron.
Okay. Where does Miss Lloyd live? 400 Amal Drive? Is that correct? All right. Miss Lloyd, would you like to inform us of your street address?
613 Amal Drive.
613 Amal Drive. Let me make sure I have the correct address on the system. All right, 613 Amal Drive. Okay. You can return to the same location, and if Mr. Crawford lives with you, that's fine, except that there cannot be any more altercations that would involve law enforcement. Otherwise, you lose your signature bond. Thank you.
Number 1, Bostic.
State versus Javon. Bostic is accused of battery and simple battery from December 23rd, 2023. I think this case was reset also. Mr. Bostic, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has a total of 6 arrest cycles with arrests out of Georgia and South Carolina. Misdemeanor convictions in 2007, 2009, and 2013 for assault. Their last arrest was January 3rd, 2022 out of Twiggs County for driving on suspended, canceled, or revoked registration. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
All right. So Mr. Bostic was given a $5,000 pretrial bond, level 2, by Judge Morrow on December 23rd. And then an amended accusation was filed on December 26th, today, adding a charge of simple battery with regards to Scott Ziegler. Mr. Abdullah, any objection to me adding $1,000 signature bond for pretrial?
Yes, Your Honor. This time, the state is requesting a $3,500 surety bond. Based off of the information, I believe the victim is online now. The injury sustained from the victim, the defendant bit the left finger of the victim, nearly biting his finger off. He had to receive 3 stitches to have it stitched back on. He has a very violent record, including five violent arrests and a conviction from South Carolina. That conviction was an assault charge with the intent to kill. And for that reason, the state is asking for a $3,500 surety. No further contact. A stay away from 1135 Jefferson Street, and no drugs, weapon, or alcohol while on bond.
Okay, Scott Ziegler, are you on the Zoom? Because if you want to say something, this is the time to unmute and start your video. I'm not sure. Nobody's answering.
Yeah, I'm on the call.
Well, I'm so sorry. Did we disturb you, or would you like to contribute to this proceedings?
Excuse me?
Would you like to say anything about these proceedings, or would you like to remain silent?
Remain silent.
I'm sorry, repeat.
Oh, remain silent.
Okay. Mr. Jordan, if you could please mute New Way. Thank you so much. With regards to Mr. Bostic's bond, since the state has added an additional charge, I'm going to, and I don't have really any other information, especially from the alleged victim, I'm going to add a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial to the new charge. So Ms. Bridgewater, it'll be adding the 2,500, so his total bond will be 7,500, signature bond through pretrial level 2. Mr. Bostic, what this means is that once you are released through pretrial services, you will report to pretrial twice a month. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You have to have no contact with Scott Ziegler. Is there any reason why you need to return to the Jefferson Street location?
Because I have my property there, I have my book bag, my bike, and Your Honor.
I just want to know whether you need to collect anything. I don't need any more information. Do you have stuff to collect then?
Yes, ma'am.
And it will take you less than an hour to pick it all up?
Not even 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So you are to stay away, 200 yards away from Scott Ziegler, and as well as 1135 Jefferson Street in Northwest Atlanta. You're allowed a one-time visit, and you must go with a police officer, a law enforcement escort, to that location to retrieve your personal belongings. And that visit cannot exceed 15 minutes. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If Scott Ziegler is there, you're not permitted to speak with him. You're not permitted to address him. And just let the officer know that you're supposed to stay 200 yards away from him while you're there.
I do have a case manager who will be speaking to me when I get there. That's who got my property.
I don't know who that is, but
Your Honor, this is a shelter of some kind.
oh, okay. So if there's a case manager, you and the officer can approach the case manager to retrieve your belongings. Understood, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not allowed to have any firearms. Thank you.
Judge Law, what was the bond amount again?
For his original charge battery, Judge Morrow gave him a 5,000, and the new charge simple battery is 2,500. He needs to report to pretrial twice a month, and within 30 days of being released, we need a good address on him. So make sure you update us with your addresses if you change them. Thank you. Francois, I don't know why AC/DC is all cleared out, so I am still continuing with you. Next case, please.
Number 12, Kennedy.
Where did everyone in AC/DC go? Do we know? Okay.
Judge Law, for the back to Bostic, it's 2,500 total because it's two
No.
times.
So on count 1, battery, he received a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. That he already got back on the 23rd. Today, he was receiving a additional 2,500 signature bond through pretrial on count 2, simple battery. So his total bond for both charges is 7,500.
Thank you.
Okay. Position 12.
Excuse me, Judge, do you want me to go ahead and put both of those charges on this
Yeah.
new bond?
And just indicate at the top where the title is amended bond order.
Gotcha. Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right, Blake Kennedy and
Kennedy, number 12. Where's Kennedy? Oh, we don't know. I'm sorry, Judge. We're gonna move on to the next. He's not in here. Number 2, Davis. Come on.
okay. Who's the is there a co-defendant or a cross-defendant? No? Okay. John Davis is 23 CR 8215D, accused of criminal trespass from December 24, 2022. Mr. Davis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. And we have another case, 23 CR 8155D, in which Mr. Davis was accused of criminal trespass from December 20th. And he received a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. Okay, so for this new case, any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has a total of 28 arrest cycles, misdemeanor conviction in 2017 for disorderly conduct, The last arrest was that December 20th, 2023, in that case number that you read off.
Yes.
It also appears that they're on probation. That number is 23 CR 001234D for loiter, prowling, criminal trespass, and theft by taking. There's no recommendation from pretrial at this time.
All right. Mr. Abdullah, any comment?
Yes, Your Honor, this is a case that we reached out to the public defender's office about possibly sending through diversion or PAD. I'm not exactly sure of the process, but I wanted to see if his defense counsel had made any had kind of made any contact with PAD or maybe helped to find him some type of housing assistance.
Not at this time. I believe we gave him a homeless packet, but I just finished the interviews like 1 minute before 2, so I was not able to reach out to PAD.
Yes, Your Honor. Based off that information, the state is requesting a $2,000 surety bond to give the defense counsel an opportunity to find some type of assistance for the defendant. It seems, based off of his record, that he may be suffering from a housing challenge. The facts of this case is that the defendant was asked to leave 303 Peachtree Center Avenue, which is the Truist Bank. He was asked to leave and warned of trespassing several times. He refused to leave. Officers came and made an arrest for criminal trespass. This defendant does have 8 other arrests for criminal trespass, including the last arrest being 3 days prior to this charge. So at this time, the state is requesting a $2,000 surety bond, again, to give defense counsel an opportunity to find some type of program or assistance that might be helpful to keep the defendant from reoffending.
Yeah.
Nothing further from the state.
Mr. Cook, I'm concerned your client was arrested on the day he was released from jail. So I'm going to put a $500 surety bond and reset the case pending the PD's investigation to see whether he qualifies for the PAD services.
Yes, Your Honor.
$500 surety bond, stay away from the Truist Bank at 303 Peachtree Road. And Ms. Bridgewater, could we put both cases on the January 9th calendar, please?
Yes, and the 8155.
Yes, please.
Yes, gotcha.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 10, John Johnson.
Mr. John Johnson's case number is 23 CR 8218A, accused of criminal trespass and theft by shoplifting from December 17th, 2023. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors?
This defendant has a total of 40 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2013 for forgery, 2017 possession of cocaine, 2022 theft by receiving stolen property. They're currently being supervised by a pretrial, so will be surrendering their bond on that last arrest, which was December the 2nd, 2023, for criminal damage, and that case number is 23 CP 223844. Nothing further to report.
Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge, the state will be making a recommendation on this. This case, defendant was charged with 1 count of criminal trespass, 1 count of theft by shoplifting. And the facts of the case are that the officers were dispatched to the incident location, which is 590 Cascade Avenue Southwest, which is the Kroger. They were called in reference to a shoplifter. The defendant was detained by security personnel. And he was caught on CCTV attempting to steal $89.94 worth of alcohol and other products. The defendant had previously been criminally trespassed from this same location on December 12th of this year. So I'm sorry, 2nd of this year. So just 15 days prior. And he's got a slew of theft crimes in the past. Including the theft by shoplifting from 2019, the theft by shoplifting from 2016, and the theft by shoplifting from 2005, along with his forgery charge from 2012, Your Honor. He also has recent probation violations, including a 2014 and a 2020 where probation was actually revoked, and multiple FTAs in the past, most recent being 2022. There's currently a $1,000 surety bond on each of the charges. The state is going to recommend on count 2 that the surety is converted to a cash, considering he was criminally trespassed from the same location and has the recent theft charges, along with a stay away from the incident location of that particular Kroger.
So you want a bond of $2,000 cash?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant's got a history of theft crimes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, that sounds a little too harsh on a shoplifting and trespass. We would be looking for something in the signature bond range. It could be pretrial at whatever level.
Okay. But understand that he's got a signature bond that's going to be revoked in his felony matter. So no matter what I put, he's going to have to make that bond as well.
Yes,
And
yes, sure.
I don't know what that amount is. Miss Hardy, do you know what's the amount of the signature bond that's being revoked?
I don't, but I can find out. Bear with me one moment.
Okay. In the meantime, on these 2 new charges, it's going to be $500 on each count. The total bond is going to be $1,000 surety. Next court date is going to be January 9th. And he's to stay away from the, not only the Kroger at 590 Cascade Road, he's to stay away from all Kroger supermarkets in Fulton County. Right? And as soon as we find out,
Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to add.
I wanted to know when was my next court date for the pretrial case that they're going off of the bond on.
The pretrial felony case, I do not know the court date, but we definitely know your court date for this new misdemeanor case is going to be January 9th.
And that on the 9th, will I be able to take care of that at that particular time?
I doubt it, unless it's got the same court date. Let me see.
I mean, on the misdemeanor case, I will be able to take care of that case on the 9th.
On the felony case, you do not have a court date at the present time. You do have a bond order, which was a signature bond, and that was for, it didn't set amount, it was just a UJR. So that's, so it doesn't look like an amount was set, but you were required to report 3 times. So there's no numerical amount set on that one. But for the and in order for you to get a new bond in the felony case, you will need a court date in Superior Court. And I'm not authorized to give you a court date because I'm not in Superior Court. I'm in state court. However, for your misdemeanor case, your next court date is January 9th, and your bond is presently $1,000 surety bond. And I don't know what you mean by take care of that.
I was just saying, on the 9th, will I be able to come in, plead guilty, get probation or something like that?
If you and your attorney speak and you decide to listen to the recommendation, if a recommendation is made, then clearly you would have an opportunity, but I don't know what's going to be offered at that time.
All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Next case, Francois, may I take a case at ACDC?
Yes, that's fine.
All right, ACDC, Deputy Milton, you can bring one of the ladies up front.
Position 8, Miss Tamika Hill, please come forward. Thank you.
Miss Tamisha, are you concluded your interview?
Huh?
No, it's not for you.
She's still in the breakout room.
Okay, thank you. Miss Tamika Hill is accused of willful obstruction of an officer and disorderly conduct from December 23rd, 23, excuse me. Case number is 23 CR 008227C. Ms. Tamika Hill, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Is that your client, Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, excellent. And Ms. Hardy, any priors on Ms. Tamika Hill?
This defendant has 15 arrest cycles in Georgia, misdemeanor conviction in 2012 for theft by shoplifting, 2019 criminal trespass. The last arrest was November the 8th of this year out of DeKalb for a public order crime. The recommendation for pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
Mr. Abdullah?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the facts show that officers responded to a disturbance call at 4020 Danforth Road in Atlanta, Georgia. Upon arrival, they met with a Mr. and Mrs. Hill, who told them that the defendant was in the hallway banging on doors and was not a resident there. Officers made contact with the defendant, who was immediately combative and uncooperative. Officers asked the defendant to place her hands behind her back. She refused and began tussling with the officer. The officer backed away from the defendant and drew his taser, giving the defendant commands to stop walking towards him. The defendant stated to the officer, is this what you want?" and continued to approach him, at which time she was tased and arrested. At this time, the state is asking for a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial with the stay away and no further contact, as well as no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while on bond.
All right. Mr. Cook, do we have a current address on Miss Tamika Hill?
I've got a 2003 Glenwood Avenue Southwest. That's in, I think I'd never heard of Glenwood Avenue Southwest, 30035.
Is that your current address, Miss Hill?
Just 2003 Glenwood Avenue Down Lane Drive.
All right, if that's your correct address, then you need to make sure that it's updated with the court. At the present time, on the obstruction, your bond's going to be 1,000. On the disorderly conduct, it's going to be 500. Your total bond is a 1,500 signature bond through pretrial services. You will, and that's level 1. You will report to pretrial once a month, and you're to stay 200 yards away from this location called 4020 Danforth Road in Southwest Atlanta. That's the location where you were apparently arrested. And if you get arrested again for anything else, unfortunately, this signature bond can be canceled and you will have to pay the next time you're at jail. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Law, which case was that?
Position 8, Tamika Hill.
Thank you.
All right, courtroom 2, who do we have?
This is gonna be number 13, Ms. King.
All right, I'm going to take Ms. King next. May I take courtroom 3 first? Ms. Tamisha Cook, are we ready with your client?
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready.
All right. Ms. Chansey, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the information you translate will be a true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Thank you. We have State versus Gary Yardley Quincino.
Esta es la Fiscalía contra Gary Yardley Quiseno.
His case number is 23 CR 8232G.
Y el número de caso es 23CR 008232G.
He has 2 family violence charges from December 25th, 2023.
Tiene 2 cargos de violencia familiar ocurridos el día 25 de diciembre del 2023.
They are battery, family violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree.
Tiene un cargo por golpes y lesiones, violencia familiar y crueldad ante un menor en el 3er grado.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you.
Usted tiene el derecho de guardar silencio. Toda declaración que haga en este caso puede y será usada en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, Ms. Tamisha Cook will be representing you.
Usted tiene derecho a ser representado por un abogado y si no puede pagar por uno, la señorita Tamisha Cook será su abogada.
I'm going to inquire about your criminal record history.
Voy a preguntar acerca de sus antecedentes penales.
Ms. Hardy, please.
Señora Hardy.
This defendant has a total of 2 arrest cycles with arrests out of New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Este acusado tiene 2 ciclos de arrestos, uno en Nueva Jersey y en Pensilvania.
The last arrest was August the 9th, 2023.
El último arresto fue el 9 de agosto del 2023.
Out of Homestead, New Jersey for retail theft.
Eso ocurrió en Homestead, New Jersey, por hurto de negocio.
The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 1.
La recomendación es recibir UJR por sus siglas en inglés en el nivel 1.
Ms. Chansey, UJR stands for Uniform Judicial Release. Excuse me, Unsecured Judicial Release.
Es una libertad penal insegura en el nivel 1.
Ms. Reddick, what does the prosecution recommend?
¿Qué
Your Honor,
recomienda la fiscalía?
Your Honor, the prosecution recommends that he already has a bond of $5,000 under battery family violence.
Se recomienda, bueno, él ya tiene una fianza de $5,000 por el cargo de violencia familiar de golpes y lesiones.
On the cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, we would be adding $1,500.
Y agregaremos $1,500 por el cargo de crueldad ante un menor.
We would ask that there be no drugs, alcohol, or weapon while out on bond.
Y pedimos que se prohíba el uso de drogas, alcohol y armas mientras esté libre bajo fianza.
We would be asking that he stay away from the incident location of 2265 Perry Boulevard, apartment 45.
Pedimos que se mantenga alejado de la dirección 2265 de Perry Boulevard, el departamento 5.
We would also ask that he have no further contact with Miss Lena Rincon and juvenile Alejandra Quinceño.
Y pedimos que no tenga contacto alguno más con la esposa Lina Rincón y la menor Alexandra Quiseno.
Your Honor, the state believes they could prove that on December 25th, 2023,
La fiscalía podría comprobar que el 25 de diciembre del 2023, si esto fuese a juicio,
at the address previously, one moment, Your Honor. I apologize, Your Honor. At the address previously stated, the defendant and Ms. Rincon, who lives together and share 2 children,
que en la dirección antes mencionada, el acusado y la señora Rincón, que tiene 2 hijos, perdón. Thank you.
were arguing over a cell phone bill.
Estaban discutiendo acerca de una factura de el teléfono celular.
The verbal argument became a physical argument and physical altercation initiated by the defendant.
La pelea verbal se convirtió en física iniciada por el acusado.
The physical altercation was, in fact, observed by the juvenile, Miss A. Quincero. I apologize.
Quinceno. El altercado físico en realidad fue observado por la menor Alejandra Quiseno.
There was also an independent third-party witness who stayed across the street who observed Mr. Quinceno drag Miss Rincon out of the apartment while striking her.
También hubo un testigo de enfrente de la casa que declaró haber visto al acusado sacar a la señora Rincón fuera de la casa.
Officers observed a large bump on Miss Rincon's head and visible bruising on other parts of her body.
Los oficiales pudieron observar un chichón en la cabeza y moretones en otras partes de su cuerpo.
Your Honor, our victim is online if the court would like to sound for her.
Y la víctima está en línea si su señoría quiere llamarla. Señor,
Lena Marie Rinson, if you would like to address the court, please unmute and start your video.
Lina María Rincón, por favor, si usted quiere hablar a esta jueza, prenda su cámara y micrófono, por favor.
Sí, yo quiero hablar. Yo fui la primera que le pegué a él.
Yes,
Él
I would like to speak because I was the first one hitting him.
Okay, please raise your right hand,
Levante su mano derecha,
your other right hand.
la otra de la derecha.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Usted jura y afirma que lo que dirá será la verdad, toda la verdad, a su mejor saber y entender.
Sí, lo juro.
Yes, I do.
What would you like to tell us?
¿Qué le gustaría decirnos?
Yo fui la que vine y lo golpeé a él.
I was the one who came and hit him.
Yo le dije a Alejandra que dijera que él me había pegado a mí.
I told Alexandra to tell or to say that he was the one who hit me.
Anything else?
¿Algo más?
No, nada.
No, nothing else.
All right, thank you.
Gracias.
Anything else, Miss Reddick?
¿Algo más, señora?
Notwithstanding the statement just given by the victim, we do have the independent third party who says that the defendant was the aggressor.
Tenemos, aparte de esta declaración, la tercera parte, quien declaró que fue el acusado el que la sacó a la mujer afuera.
And Miss Reddick, you were recommending a surety bond, if I'm not mistaken.
Está
Correct,
usted
ma'am.
recomendando una fianza bajo garantías, ¿cierto?
Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sí, su señoría.
Mr. Cook, excuse me, Miss Tamisha Cook, any response?
Señora Tamisha King.
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to clarify for the record, it's my understanding based on the information that I received in the report that the independent third witness that the state is referring to actually did not know how the incident started or who started the altercation. They only heard a female child scream, "Call the police." And
Yo quisiera clarificar que el testimonio dado que se ve en el informe sobre esa tercera parte independiente es el haber dicho que él observó al acusado sacar a la señora afuera y se escuchó gritar a una pequeña, llama a la policía.
He only saw that my client and his wife were outside with the door closed.
Él solo vio que mi cliente estaba fuera de la casa con su esposa.
Additionally, in the report, the child, along the lines of what the wife just said, initially stated that her mother started the incident.
Además, en el informe se establece que la niña primero declaró que su madre había empezado el incidente.
And then when the question was rephrased, changed her story.
Cuando la pregunta se le hizo con otras palabras, ella cambió la historia.
I do want to also put on the record that my client was one of the people who initially called 911.
También quiero poner en el acta que mi cliente fue el primero que llamó a la policía.
And he denies all allegations against him.
Y él niega todos los alegatos en su contra.
We are asking the court to go along with pretrial recommendation.
Pedimos una recomendación a través de la Oficina de Servicios Previos al Juicio.
He's currently 24 years old.
Él tiene 24 años hoy en día.
He's a high school graduate.
Y él se graduó de la escuela secundaria.
He's worked for the last 2 years as an independent contractor with Amazon.
Él ha trabajado independientemente por los últimos 2 años con Amazon.
He does live here at the incident location with his wife and 2 kids.
Él vive en el lugar del incidente con su esposa e hijos.
We would ask the court to inquire, we would ask for a no further violent or harassing contact with the victim and for our Mr. Quino to be able to go back home to the incident location.
Queremos pedir que se establezca una orden de no tener más contacto violento y que se le permita regresar a su residencia.
And if I could ask Ms. Nino if she's afraid for her safety.
Y podría yo preguntarle a la señora Nino Rincón si ella tiene miedo o temor por su seguridad.
No, yo no tengo miedo.
No, I don't.
And would you like for your husband to be able to come back to the incident location?
¿Usted quisiera que su esposo volviera al lugar del incidente?
Sí, yo quiero que vuelva a casa.
Yes, I want him to come home.
And are you okay with no further violent or harassing contact as a condition of the bond?
¿Y está usted de acuerdo que se le ponga una condición de fianza de no tener más contacto violento?
Sí.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Your
Nada
Honor, if
más,
I
su
may, I
señor.
want to clarify some things from the incident report.
Quisiera aclarar algunas cosas sobre el informe policial, por favor.
The officers posed a question, initially asked the question, who started the incident to the daughter?
El oficial le preguntó quién inició la pelea a la hija.
When the officers qualified what they meant to the young child, she first said the father was the one who started the physical contact.
Y sí, ellos, los oficiales afirman que al principio la niña dijo que fue la madre la que empezó el acto físico.
The officers continued to talk to the little girl for a amount of time and then posed the question to her again.
Los oficiales continuaron hablando por un momento más con la niña y le volvieron a hacer la pregunta.
When they posed the question to her a second time, she confirmed again it was her father.
Y cuando le hicieron la pregunta, ella confirmó que había sido su padre.
It's a
Cuando
tragedy.
confirmó de nuevo.
Thank you. It's a tragedy and a shame if I have to actually rely on the words of a 6-year-old child.
Oh, no,
who's
Your Honor,
come
I'm getting
here.
to that too. I'm getting to
No,
the
I'm not,
picture.
I've read the warrant and I know exactly which portion of the report you're reading.
Yo he
Well, I'm
leído
gonna go
esto
down
y es
to
una
that.
vergüenza que tenga que confiar en las
Laura,
palabras de una niña.
Expedited.
I'm sorry, Miss Reddick, you were speaking over the translator. What did you want to say?
I wanted to then draw your attention further down on the warrant that deals with Sebastian.
Oh, yes, the bystanders, the third parties. Yes, I've read that part too.
Nothing additional, Your Honor.
Quisiera que leyera la parte donde se habla el señor Sebastián. Sí, ya la he leído también. Bueno, nada más entonces, su señoría.
I don't know why Miss Rinson is comfortable with Gary Quino being back.
Yo no entiendo por qué la señora Rincón está cómoda con que Gary Quino vuelva a la casa.
But it is undisputed, pursuant to the warrant,
Pero de acuerdo a la orden de arresto es indisputable
that children were screaming to call the police.
Que niños gritaban que se llamara a la policía.
And it's a shame and a tragedy that parents are subjecting their children to such violence.
Y es una vergüenza y una tragedia que adultos sometan a niños a una tragedia semejante.
So if the both of them want to conduct themselves properly, Mr. Quino had better comply with the following conditions.
Entonces, si ambos de ustedes quieren que esta situación mejore, tienen que someterse a las siguientes condiciones.
On the Battery family violence is a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Por los golpes y lesiones, violencia familiar, son $4,000, fianza bajo firma.
And the cruelty is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial.
Y $22,500 de multa bajo firma por el cargo de crueldad ante un menor. Ambos procesos se tiene que hacer a través de la Oficina de Servicios Previos al Juicio.
No violent contact with Lena Rinson and the minors AQ and JQ.
No puede haber ningún tipo de contacto violento con la señora Rincón ni con los menores A, Q y JQ.
He may return to 2265 Perry Boulevard.
Él puede regresar al 2265 Perry Boulevard.
And if the police get involved again in their situation,
Y en esta situación se vuelve a involucrar la policía
because of a violation of the conditions,
por incumplimiento de estas condiciones,
the $6,500 signature bond will be revoked.
se va a cancelar las condiciones de pago de fianza.
No consumption of illegal drugs, no alcohol, and he cannot possess any firearms or weapons.
Se prohíbe el uso de drogas, alcohol y tiene prohibido portar armas.
Within 30 days of being released on a signature bond,
Después de 30 días de haber sido puesto en libertad por una fianza bajo firma,
Mr. Consino must enroll in a qualified domestic violence intervention program.
el señor Quinceno tiene que registrarse en un programa calificado de violencia doméstica.
He will report to pretrial once a month.
Tendrá que presentarse ante los servicios previos al juicio una vez al mes.
And by his second visit, he must show proof of enrollment in the domestic violence program.
Y en la segunda cita, él debe presentar prueba de registración en un programa de violencia doméstica.
If he does not report and or if he gets arrested again,
Si él no se presenta o vuelve a ser arrestado,
the signature bond will be revoked.
se va a cancelar la fianza bajo firma.
Thank you.
Gracias.
All right. Do we have another case for Ms. Chauncey?
No, Your Honor, but for clarification, will pretrial services help him get enrolled in the FFIB class?
No, he would have to look for a qualified, oh, he's gone.
Okay.
No, you somehow need to let him know that he needs to look it up himself. And
Okay.
especially one where Spanish is the primary language spoken. Ah, there we go. Mr. Quinceno,
Señor Quinceno,
to find the qualified domestic violence program,
para encontrar un programa calificado de violencia familiar,
you have to do your own research
usted tiene que hacer su propia investigación
and make sure you find one where Spanish is the primary language.
y usted tiene que asegurarse de encontrar un programa en donde que se haga en español principalmente.
Make sure that you notify your pretrial officer of the enrollment by the second visit.
Y en la segunda cita con la oficina de servicios previos al juicio tiene que avisarle a su agente, supervisor.
All right. Ms. Cook, any more questions?
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, thank
Nada
you.
más. Okay.
All right, Ms. Chauncey, thank you again for
You're
coming to our
welcome.
rescue.
And
Appreciate
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Well, happy holidays, happy new year, and
Thank you, Your Honor.
see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mhm. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Judge Law, that was 6,500, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. This is gonna be number 13, Ms. King.
Marjorie King is case 23 CR 8222Y, charged with battery family violence from December 25th, 2023. Ms. King, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr.
No, it's Ms. Cook.
Ms. Cook, Tamisha Cook. And ACDC, I'm so sorry, I promised to come to you, and you're going to be next. Okay, thank you. So Ms. Hardy, any priors on Ms. King?
Ms. King does not have any history to report at this time and is recommended for UJR through the jail.
All right, Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge, the state is going to be making a recommendation on the battery family violence. Officers were dispatched to the incident location, which is 433 Highland Avenue Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia, in regards to an altercation call. Once they arrived, they spoke with a concerned neighbor who told them that they heard noises coming from the incident location apartment number 1105. Once officers made it to the actual apartment, they also heard the yelling and made contact with individuals inside, eventually getting them to separate. The victim, Mr. Prince, and I'll spell the last name, Kludjeson. Mr. Prince explained that there was a get-together in their apartment. The victim stated that there was a verbal argument that became physical while he was holding their baby in his hands. The defendant then struck the victim in the face, grabbing the baby out of his hand, and then later on attempted to strike him again. The defendant's mother did confirm the events of the situation and stated that the defendant was off prescribed medication. Officers did observe scratches on the left side of the victim's face. The victim, and this is from our actual victim, they do share a child together. The victim did confirm that they were in the argument, and that he did sustain injuries. And it looks like he wants no further violent contact, Your Honor. The state is going to be recommending, there's currently no bond on this case. The state is going to be recommending a $2,500 surety bond and a no further contact, Your Honor.
All right. I noticed someone on the Zoom screen by the name of Prince Kawame. Are you by any chance involved in this case?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Okay, are you the individual referred to as Prince Kludjeson?
Yes, please.
Okay, did you want to add anything or just observing?
Respectfully, Your Honor, that was not what I told the officer. She didn't grab the baby from me. So,
I need to place you under oath.
okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right. So she didn't grab baby or attempt to retrieve the child. Was there an altercation?
Well, yes, she did strike me, but she didn't try. She asked me to give her the baby, but she didn't attempt to yank the baby out of my hand. No, she didn't.
Okay. And do you both still live at the 433 Highland location?
No, we do not live together. I live separately.
Okay. And it's not at the Highland location. Would that be correct?
No, that's where she lives. I do not live there.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hollins, that was a signature bond recommendation, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a surety bond, Your Honor.
Well, surety bond, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I believe this was her first arrest?
That's correct.
Okay. Miss Marjorie King, your bond is going to be set at $3,000. That's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. You're going to report to pretrial services once a month. You are to have no further contact with Prince Kludjeson. And is the child born in wedlock or outside of wedlock?
Outside of wedlock.
All right. And does the child live with you?
Yes.
All right.
May I-
And if Mr. Kludjeson would like to have contact with the child that he shares with Miss Marjorie King, he may do so through a third-party transfer. In other words, a third party needs to be involved to pick up the child and drop off the child. But other than that, there cannot be any contact between Marjorie King and Prince Kludjeson. Ms. King, as I said, you'll be reporting to pretrial once a month, and you must comply with any kind of treatment or medication that you may be obtaining. I do not know. I've just got an allegation of that. Of course, Mr. Kludjeson, excuse me, Ms. King, if you are the custodial parent of the child in question, you also have the authority to not allow Mr. Kludjeson any visitation or custody with the child in question unless he files a legitimation action in the appropriate superior court. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
May I,
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons.
may I say something, Your Honor?
Yes.
My mother, I've been caring for her. She's lived with me for 13 years, has Alzheimer's dementia.
I really don't need to know that. That is
And
not
so
relevant. That is not relevant.
her recount of the story.
That is not relevant.
Okay,
Ms.
That is
King,
not relevant.
I'm sorry, but
Your Honor, if I may though, I just want you to know that Ms. King does have a bachelor's degree from Howard University. She graduated in 2011, no prior history. If she has questions, she can contact me about the bond conditions, but we do want to thank you for the signature bond.
All right.
Thank
Please
you.
be aware, Ms. King, if you fail to report or if you get arrested again, that $3,000 signature bond will be converted to a surety bond or no bond at all. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kwame. You're free to go. All right. ACDC, who do we have, please?
Position 11, Tiffany Cook.
All right.
I'm sorry, Tiffany Johnson.
All right. Next. Tiffany Johnson is 23 CR 8220D, charged with simple battery domestic violence from December 23rd of this year. Ms. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant does not have any history to report this time and is recommended for a UJR through the jail.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge, the state is going to be making a recommendation on the simple battery family violence. The defendant, all we have is a warrant, and the warrant doesn't have a ton of information on it, Your Honor. Defendant intentionally caused physical harm to her mother by headbutting her in the head and then subsequently kicking her in the stomach. The state is, and this happened at 1830 Campbellton Road Southwest, and the victim's name is Miss Michelle Johnson, Michelle, last name Johnson, traditional spelling. Because we do not have very much information, and considering the severity of the charges, the state is going to be requesting a $3,000 surety. There's currently, I'm sorry, a $5,000 surety that's currently in place, so we're asking for it to remain the same. A no further contact with Michelle Johnson, and a stay away from the incident location, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Cook, is your client still a resident of Los Angeles, California?
Yes, she is. She is a resident. She was here for a wedding, family gathering. We dispute some of the characterization of the accusation, but Ms. Johnson will, upon getting out, spend some time with her aunt here in Atlanta, but plans to go pretty much immediately back to her home in Los Angeles.
All right. Miss Tiffany Johnson, your bond's going to be set at $2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial. I'm going to allow you to do telephonic reporting, which will be your obligation to report to pretrial once a month via telephone. You are to stay away from Michelle Johnson. No contact with Michelle Johnson. Stay 200 yards away and do not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. You're also to stay away from 1830 Campbellton Road in Southwest Atlanta. And you have to stay 200 yards away from that location as well. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Of course, if you get arrested again in any part of the country, and pretrial services is informed of that, then your signature bond will be revoked and a pretrial warrant will be issued. Those also tend to have a nasty habit of going nationwide. Thank you.
Number 17, Matthews.
All right. Sorry, that particular case is. Did you mean Jasmine Matthews?
Yes, that's correct, Judge.
Okay. Case number is 23 CR 8228E. Miss Matthews has got one misdemeanor offense of simple battery, domestic violence, and from a November 27, 2023 incident. Miss Matthews, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Which one is Jasmine Matthews? Please raise your right hand. Okay, she's the one in courtroom 2. All right, just want to be sure. Thank you. Ms. Hardy, any priors on Jasmine Matthews?
Your Honor, I have not interviewed
That's
this
my
man.
client, Mr. Cook.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Okay, your attorney, Miss Jasmine Matthews, is Tamisha Cook. That's. All right, I'm sorry about that, Miss Cook. All right, Miss Hardy, what were you going to say?
This defendant has 3 arrest cycles in Georgia. Their last arrest was August the 29th, 2022, out of Clayton County for battery family violence. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
And that was in Clayton County?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge, state's going to be making a recommendation on this case. Officers were dispatched to the incident location of 961 Neal Street Northwest in Atlanta, Georgia, when they were met with the victim, Miss Tatiana Hamilton, and that's Tytianna Hamilton. And Miss Hamilton explained that when she was inside when her roommate, Miss Matthews, came over and forced her way inside of the house, or I guess inside of the room, while cursing and hitting at the front door. At the time, the defendant then started a verbal altercation, striking the victim in the face several times. The defendant is supposed to be the victim's caretaker, as the victim is actually blind. The victim did state that she has known the defendant since 2015. And that she had been her caretaker for about 2 weeks prior to the incident, but she never really did anything to assist her. The victim stated that she didn't know why the defendant came into the residence acting the way that she did. She stated that she had a split lip and a scratch under her eye. And this is allegedly not the first time the defendant has been violent with this particular victim, but the first time that she'd actually been arrested for it. She has not spoken with her since the incident. She did state that she will try to be on the Zoom. Your Honor, the state is going to be looking at amending this to a battery family violence, considering the warrant didn't have the information about the visible injuries. So we will be looking to upgrade this to a battery family violence. And considering that there is a previous battery family violence out of Clayton County from just last year, the state is going to be recommending a $5,000 surety bond. There is no bond currently, and a no further contact and a stay away, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Misha?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Matthews adamantly denies all the allegations against her. She is 32 years old. She's lived in Georgia all of her life. She does have some college at Gordon State and then Atlanta Metropolitan, where she was studying nursing. She does intend to go back to school. She is employed at home care giving company where she is a caregiver. It's my understanding that this particular complaining witness does have a history of making false reports, and that may be the reason why this occurred. The date of the incident is November 27th of 2023. My client had no knowledge of the warrant and had no idea that this was even out there, and not even sure in any basis other than the fact that she decided she wasn't going to talk to this person anymore. So we're asking the court to go along with pretrial services recommendation of a unsecured judicial release bond level 2 reporting. Thank you.
Bond is going to be set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. No further contact with Tatiana Hamilton, and to stay away from 961 Neal Street in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Thank you. Next court date is January 9th. All right, ACDC, who do we have?
Position 21, Brianna Smith.
Brianna Denise Smith is case 23CR8233E, accused of DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe, driving with an improper erratic lane change, and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, a misdemeanor offense. This is from December 23rd, 2023. Ms. Smith, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Would that be correct?
No, it's
Ms.
Miss.
Tamisha? Okay. Your attorney is Ms. Tamisha Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant does not have any history to report and is recommended for a UJR through the jail.
All right, thank you. Ms. Reddick?
Good morning, Your Honor. Again, this incident occurred December 23rd, 2023 at the intersection of I-85 and Flat Shoals in the city of South Fulton, Fulton County, Georgia. Officers responded to an accident call. When they arrived, they observed the defendant's car in a ditch near the Waffle House as 3801 Flat Shoals Road. The security guard at the Waffle House advised that the defendant had been there and was acting aggressive and yelled profanities and smelled intoxicated. The defendant left, and while attempting to drive off, lost control of the vehicle, drove into a ditch. Officer Hardy and Baskerville approached the defendant and asked that she provide identification and exit the vehicle numerous times. Defendant refused and yelled profanities at the officers through the closed window. Officer Hardy tried several times to open the defendant's door, but it was locked. After some time, Officer Hardy shattered the defendant's window, and with the assistance of Officer Baskerville, they removed her from the car. Once outside the car, the defendant continued to resist and was handcuffed. Officer Hardy noted that the defendant smelled of alcohol. While receiving treatment from EMS for the small cuts from the shattered glass, the defendant admitted to having 2 drinks. Your Honor, she currently has bond set on all her charges. We would just add that she have no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. She can go through anger management, has no further contact with either of the officers, and does an alcohol drug evaluation.
Anything else, Ms. Reddick? Last bit? No? Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, Ms. Tamisha?
Yes, Your Honor, we will be asking the court to go along with pretrial's recommendation of an unsecured judicial release. She does not have any prior. She's 24 years old. She's a high school graduate. She actually has a job that she should be starting soon, assuming she's able to get out of jail. So yeah, we're just asking the court to give her a signature bond, nothing further.
All right. On the DUI less safe, that's a $2,000 surety bond. On the improper erratic lane change, that's a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. And the willful obstruction, that's a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. That's a $5,000 split bond. The next court date is January 9th. She'll be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and alcohol. She's not to consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and not own any weapons or any firearms. No driving unless she has a limited driving privilege issued by the Department of Driver Services in accordance with the appropriate appeal. So in other words, no driving unless Department of Driver Services gives her a limited driving permit. Thank you.
Number 24, Ms. White.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Was her license suspended?
Well, when you have a DUI charge, you only have 30 days left to drive on your current driver's license unless you file the appropriate appeal.
Correct.
The issuance of after that, she's not allowed to drive unless an appeal is timely filed and she receives such a permit from an administrative hearing with the Office of State Administrative Hearings.
So for clarification, as long as she has a valid privilege to drive CDS, she's able to drive?
She has a valid license to drive for the next 30 days. If she files a timely appeal and the appeal she prevails at the appeal, then she will be given a limited permit to drive. So unless that takes place, she cannot drive after 30 days. Yes, Ms. Smith?
I just got my driver's license for the state of Georgia like 2 days before I got locked up.
Well, hang on to it. You might lose it very soon.
May we be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, Stephanie Milton, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Thank you. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Number 24, Ms. White.
Phyllis White is accused of reckless conduct allegedly involving a firearm in 23 CR 8236E. Ms. White, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Tamisha Cook. You've been and the alleged incident apparently is December 23rd, 2023. Ms. Hardy, any priors?
This defendant has 7 arrest cycles in Georgia. Their last arrest was December 28th of 2021 out of Fulton County for an FTA. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 1. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Reddick?
Yes, Judge. The incident is alleged to occur December 23rd, 2023 at 566 University Avenue Southwest in Atlanta, Fulton County. Officers responded to a 911 call placed by Mr. Orlando Lewis that the defendant had been shooting in the area that day and the previous day. Mr. Lewis expressed concern that if the defendant continued with the activity, he would get shot. When officers approached Ms. White and asked her what was going on, they observed that she did have a weapon on her waistband. They removed the weapon and cleared it. She advised that she had been shooting at coyotes to keep them away from her cats. And so the defendant already has a bond set on this of $5,000. We would ask that you add to it no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. She forfeit any weapons that she currently has.
Understood. Mr. Cook?
This is not my client.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Cook. Sorry about that.
Yes, Your Honor, we're asking the court to give Ms. White a signature bond or unsecured judicial release. She is 66 years old. She does live by herself out in that neighborhood. She's completed 3 years of college. She had majored in physical therapy. She's currently retired now and on a fixed income. She did have some prior FTAs because previously she was homeless, but now she's back stable. She does have, it's my understanding that when this case does proceed to trial, that she should have video evidence substantiating her claims. We are asking the court to grant her the signature bond, nothing further.
All right, thank you. Bond is set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. Next court date is January 9th. She has to surrender all firearms to the authorities for destruction. She's not allowed to own a firearm, not to consume any illegal drugs, and no alcohol. And we'll see her on January 9th. If she's released on bond, she must make sure that her current address is maintained with the courts. If she changes address, she needs to let us know. But in the meantime, no weapons, no firearms at all. Thank you.
I do have a quick question, Judge Law.
Yes.
Mr. Simon Corey, he's not on the calendar. I was trying to make sure, was his case null tossed or?
Ms. Reddick, Mr. Hollins, any advice on a Michael Corrit?
No, is it Tabell? Yeah, Corey Tabell Simon.
Simple assault.
Corey Tabell Simon. Do we have a jailing number?
The booking number is going to be 232-1307.
If I may, Judge Law, this is Miss Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Simon should have been on the felony calendar.
Yeah, he was on the felony, but he was on our pool sheet, so we thought he was on both calendars.
So the Miss Reddick, Mr. Hollins, in this particular case, he does have felony charges, and his case number is 23 CP 224-406. Now, with regards to the simple assault, he does have a bond of $5,000 on the misdemeanor charge. And I do not, well, let me check and see. Just give me a moment. I just want to be sure why all right. The felony charges stem from a December 23rd, 2023 incident at 45.
I believe they're all arising out of the same incident, Your Honor. I did interview Mr. Simon.
Okay. If you are certain, then that case should have been addressed by the felony court as well. Simple assault, 6335 Roswell Road. That's a different location. Same date. (6335) at about 5:28 p.m. This is Roswell Road.
So did anyone notify the clerks of Superior Court so they could add that charge to their CP case? Because they probably didn't know about that additional warrant.
I did, Mr. Jordan. I sent it to the jail records.
Oh, I meant the clerk's office, because they're the ones that build the felony calendar.
Well, I told them it needs to be on the felony calendar.
I'll send the email so they can
Okay,
add it to
okay.
tomorrow's calendar.
All right, Ms. Reddick and Ms. Hollins, y'all look at the felony warrant and then you look at the misdemeanor warrant for simple assault. It appears to be a different victim, different location, and there seems to be a 2-hour time gap. So y'all decide whether this needs to be charged as a misdemeanor or whether it goes to the felony first appearance to be combined with the current case. So Ms. Deputy Francois, I'm going to this is 12:23. It's probably going to be Riverside if it's not addressed today. So Ms. Reddick or Ms. Hollins, what would you like to do?
Ms. Reddick, I've got the incident report up. I can review it really quick and
I have it up as well, Your Honor.
Okay.
We would actually.
Okay, by the end of the calendar, you let me know. Deputy Francois, we're going to hold on to Mr. Simon until the state decides whether they want to make this a misdemeanor charge with us or combine it with the felony case.
Okay, sounds good. We're gonna go to number 6, Mr. Glass.
Devon Glass is accused of battery, family violence from June 28th, 2023, and his accusation is 23 CR 8239F. Mr. Glass, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be, well, both PDs on mute, so I need to figure out who's the PD.
Sure.
Tamika? Okay. Ms. Tamisha Cook is your attorney. All right, Ms. Hardy, any priors?
This defendant does not have any history and is recommended for UJR level 1 with parental cosigner. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Abdullah, any recommendations?
Yes, Your Honor, Muhammad Abdullah on behalf of the state. Just a brief rundown of the facts. Officers responded to a dispute call between two siblings at 1000 Winding Brook Way, Fairburn, Georgia, on June 28th of 2023. Upon arrival, they met with the victim, who was a minor child. I believe she's 16, who told officers that her younger brother was coming into her room while she was asleep and playing with her or playing pranks on her. After asking him to stop several times and warning him to stop, she put the younger brother out of her room, at which time the older brother came into her room and began shining a flashlight in her face. She asked her older brother to leave, who was the defendant. The defendant refused to leave and told her, "Make me leave." When she attempted to try to push the defendant out of the room, the defendant punched her in the face with a closed fist. Their dad came out the room and broke the fight up, at which time the defendant continued to act aggressive and agitate the situation. When the dad moved out of the way, the defendant hit the victim in the face again. The victim sustained swelling and bruising under her right eye. This defendant does not have any arrest, and there's been a significant time since the incident. We've talked to the father, who says that there have not been any incidents after this. At this time, the state is recommending a $4,000 signature through pretrial, no further violent contact, as well as ongoing anger management while on release. Nothing
Has
further
this-
from the state.
Has this case been addressed by felony court? I've got a CP number for both these
No, Your Honor,
charges.
he was picked up on a warrant. He was picked up on a warrant as he was also being charged with the felony count of theft by taking, I believe. So it's two separate cases.
All right. Mr. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at the screen and it looks like the battery has been thrown in with the 23 CP case. I'm just
What's the
looking at the,
CP case number, Judge?
yes.
No, what is the CP case number?
Oh, I'm pulling it. Just let me
Oh,
get
sorry.
that. 23 CP 224442. I'm just looking at the jailing screen. It looks like both the charges were put under the CP number.
Judge, that was a pre-file case number. So they only did the death by taking charge.
Yeah.
I did send them an email this morning.
Okay,
Because
just want to be
both-
sure, because it shows
Right.
differently on the jailing screen, so just want to be
Yeah,
sure.
so that was the pre-file number that he received when he was booked into the jail.
All right, got it. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Ms. Tamisha, now that we've clarified it,
I'll ask you to go along with the state's recommendation, Your Honor.
all right. Is he going to be living at the Winding Brook Way, Mr. Abdullah?
Yes, Your Honor, he is still living there, and the father has confirmed that today.
Okay. The battery is going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. I'll need the father to co-sign the bond. No violent contact with, I'm sorry, I forgot the young lady's name.
Her name is Deanna Glass or Dayana Glass. That's Daeonna, last name Glass.
All right, got it. Dad would have to co-sign the bond. Do we have his name?
Yes, he is a senior and the defendant is a junior. So his name is
Devon
Glass
Senior.
Senior. Yes.
Okay. Miss Tamisha, if you could please advise the family that Devon Glass Senior would have to bring a valid picture ID when he comes to pretrial services to co-sign the bond. The longer he waits, the longer Junior would have to sit in jail. And while Mr. Glass Jr. is out on bond, he is to have no violent contact with Deanna Glass, as well as no violent contact with any other family members. He can return to the home at Winding Brook Way. And while he's out on bond, he's not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not own any weapons or firearms. Thank you.
Your Honor, could you address the anger management?
At the present time, I'm not. I'm going to leave it as it is. And if he violates the conditions of the bond, he'll be back in jail with no bond.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mhm.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I don't do this often. He is 18, and I don't have his father's number. Could he chat me his
Yeah,
father's?
Devon Glass, if you have your father's phone number and or email, you might want to give it to Deputy Francois, who will then place it in the chat directly to Tamisha Cook.
I only have my mother's, I only know my mother's, by heart. I don't know my dad.
Mr. Abdullah, did you by any chance, or did victim advocates reach out to the family?
Yes, Your Honor. Our victim advocate has been in touch with the father, and I can get in touch with them and see if they can't send it over to Ms. Cook.
Miss Iman Cheney, if you could please place the contact information for the defendant's father directly to Tamisha Cook, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Okay. All right, next case, please, Deputy Francois.
Number 7, Henry.
We have Ellen Kenneth Henry charged with battery family violence from December 17th, 2023. The accusation is now 23 CR 8223H. Ms. Henry, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has a total of 7 arrest cycles with arrests out of Georgia and Florida. Misdemeanor conviction in 2008 out of Florida for battery domestic violence. Their last arrest was November 26, 2008 out of Thomas County. For an FTA, the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah?
Yes, Your Honor. The facts as they are alleged are that officers responded to a domestic dispute in the Family Dollar parking lot at 2461 Riverdale Road. Callers told officers that there was a man attacking his girlfriend in the parking lot. When they arrived, they saw a female sitting on the ground and 2 females standing nearby. The female sitting on the ground was the victim, Latria Barber. That's Latrea Barber, Barber. Officers made contact with Miss Barber, who told them that she was arguing with her boyfriend, who also has lived with her for the past 5 months, and he beat her up and threw her out of the car. The victim told officers that the defendant hit her over 10 times. At this time, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond, as well as a 1-day anger awareness, a stay away from that incident location, which is 2461 Riverdale Road, no further contact with the victim, Latria Barber, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. This recommendation is based off the fact that the defendant does have a conviction for battery family violence out of Florida, as well as an arrest for battery against a pregnant female. He also has an FTA for an aggravated assault. And so he poses a significant flight risk, given the fact that he has a criminal history both out of Georgia and Florida, as well as a violent record, which poses a significant risk for him reoffending. Nothing further from if we could call for the victim, nothing further from the state.
Latria Barber. All right. Mr. Cook? Oops.
He lost this, but he's coming back now, Judge.
All right. Mr. Cook, can you hear us? Oh, we lost audio. All right. Let's see. Most likely, Mr. Keith Cook would have to leave the Zoom and then re-enter. So, Deputy Francois, we're going to put a pin and a hold on Mr. Alan Henry, because Mr. Abdullah will have to recitate his bond recommendation again. Maybe then take another case where Tamisha Cook represents the defendant. Thank you. Ms. Tamisha, if you can text or call Mr. Keith Cook and let him know he needs to leave the Zoom, and then yeah. All right, who do we have, please, in courtroom 2?
I'm sorry, I was muted. This is number 9, Hodges.
Okay. Mr. Robert Hodges is case number 23 CR.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Keith's.
Oh, that's Mr. Keith Cook's client.
I have number 20, 22, 23, or 25.
So number 9, Hodges is okay. 25, Woods.
Tobias Woods. All right. Tobias Woods, case number is 23 CR 8237B. And Mr. Woods, your charges brought against you are 2 counts of willful obstruction of an officer. And this is from December 24th, 2023. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Tamisha Cook. Any priors, Ms. Harden?
This defendant has a total of 39 arrest cycles, with arrests out of Georgia and Tennessee. Felony conviction in 2003 for possession of controlled substance. 2005, purchase, possession, manufacture, distribution, sale of marijuana. 2014, burglary. There is appears to be a holdout of Decatur, Georgia for burglary. The date of the warrant is September 10th, 2021. The last arrest was June the 10th, 2014, out of Coweta for burglary. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 3. Nothing further to report.
So he's got a hold out of Decatur or DeKalb County for a felony burglary charge?
That's what, according to the GCIC, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Miss Reddick?
Your Honor, on December 24th, 2023, at Langhorne Street and I-20 westbound in Atlanta, Fulton County, officers responded to an auto accident. Officer Dixon, while doing part of the auto investigation, ran defendant through the system that they use. It returned a warrant from DeKalb County. When Officer Dixon attempted to take the defendant into custody, he fled on foot. Officers Dixon and McGow, MCGHOW, gave pursuit, giving verbal commands for the defendant to stop. After a while, the defendant was taken down and placed into custody. He already currently has a bond on each count. We would like it to remain surety bonds, Your Honor, based on his history. We would also like to add no alcohol, drugs, or weapon while out on bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. Misha, it's going to be a $1,500 signature bond through the jail on each count, and that will be a release to the DeKalb County hold only. He does have a DeKalb County warrant, and he cannot be released on his own recognizance. It will be only to the DeKalb County hold to address the matter there. But in the meantime, he does have an active open case with Fulton County now, so he will need to make sure that he maintains a current address with us so that he can report to court in the future. Thank you.
That was a signature bond to the jail, correct?
That will be correct, yes.
Yeah.
$1,500 on each count, so it's a total of $3,000.
Thank you. Number
Mr. Keith Cook, how are we doing?
I think we're back on.
All right, thank you. We will go back to Mr. Alan Henry. All right. And Mr. Abdullah, if you would please recite again your bond recommendation with regards to Mr. Alan Henry. I think Mr. Keith Cook, you heard the alleged factual description.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond, a one-day anger awareness, a stay away from the incident location, no further contact with the victim, Latria Barber, and no drugs, weapon, or alcohol while on bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, he would have no problem with the stay away provisions. We would be looking, he's not currently working. We would be looking for a signature bond.
I'm going to accept the state's recommendation for a $3,000 surety bond. His next court date is going to be January 9th. No further contact with Latria Barber. To stay away from the shopping center at 2461 Riverdale Road, and also to stay away from the alleged victim's home at Laurel Roadway in East Point. He's to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Courtroom 2, if you could please unmute. Mr. Henry, you've been advised to exercise your right to remain silent. Anything you say, your statements can and will be used against you. If you choose to waive your right to remain silent and say something, that would definitely be going against your attorney's advice. It's up to you.
Yes, ma'am. What I forgot to let him know earlier before this alleged incident, I also had an incident with her where I was arrested on the 24th Thanksgiving, me and her both. It was through East Point, so I didn't know if they knew that or not. I just didn't want that.
Mr. Henry, I wouldn't say anything further.
Okay, so you're claiming that you were attacked by her the day before?
No, it was disturbance. They said it was disturbance on November 24th. So I have to go to court at East Point. I just didn't want it to be.
Oh, so in November 24th or 2023, you were allegedly attacked by Miss Barber?
Not attacked. We had a disturbance, whatever they call it, disturbing the peace, both of us, when they took us both to jail.
Oh.
That particular day. I just didn't want that, and I still have to go to court for that. I just didn't want that to be intertwined and, somebody, not understand something, but that had happened prior to this alleged incident.
Okay, but this alleged incident from December 17th, 2023, almost a month after that incident you just described.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's still a $3,000 surety bond.
I just wanted.
Okay, thank you. Next court date is January 9th for Mr. Henry.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
while I was away, I'm trying to keep a calendar for the department. While I was away, right before I came back and we dealt with Mr. Henry, someone got a $3,000 surety bond through the jail. Who was that?
Oh, that was was it last case, Mr. Tobias?
Tobias Woods,
Thank
And
you.
it was 1,500
position
on each
25.
one. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Judge.
that's okay. Next case, please, in courtroom 2.
Number 4, Everett.
Javon Everett is accused of battery and simple battery against an officer from December 25th, 2023. The accusation is 23 CR 82308. Mr. Everett, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has 9 arrest cycles in Georgia. Misdemeanor conviction in 2017 for simple battery, family violence, obstruction of law enforcement, and interference with emergency medical professionals. There's a felony conviction in 2019 for criminal damage to property, and it appears that they're on first offender probation. Open case for aggravated assault, simple battery, and cruelty to children. That case number is 10 CP 102869. The last arrest out of Atlanta was April 20th, 2021 for simple battery and theft by taking. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 3. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Abdul?
Yes, Your Honor. The facts show that on 12/25, December 25th of 2023, officers responded to an assault call at 502 Quino Avenue. They met with the victim, Miss Brittany Dunfree, who told officers that she was awakened at 2 a.m. in her tent by the defendant standing over top of her and punching her in the face. The defendant accused her of stealing $40 from him. The victim did not know what the defendant was talking about, but the defendant continued to strike her until he finally left. The victim sustained a black eye from the assault that was observed by officers. The defendant left the scene before officers arrived. After concluding their investigation, the victim decided that she would also leave the encampment at 502 Quino Avenue for her own safety. The victim relocated to an address on Cleveland Road, at which time she spotted the defendant also at the same location. Conveniently, there was an officer responding to a separate incident at the Cleveland Avenue location, and the victim was able to get the attention of the officer and notify them that the defendant was the person who assaulted her just an hour or so earlier. At which time, officers attempted to detain the defendant. He was asked to place his hands behind his back, at which time he pulled away from the officer and had to be wrestled to the ground. While on the ground, the defendant began to swing his arms and kick frantically, causing the officer to tussle with him. The officer sustained scratches to her knee and arm as a result of this takedown. At this time, the state is asking for a $4,000 surety, a stay away from the 502 Quino Avenue address, no further contact with the victim, Brittany Dunfree, as well as no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. This recommendation is based off of the defendant's extensive record. As you heard from pretrial, he has a conviction from 2016 for simple battery and obstruction, pretty much the same set of charges as we're here for today. It will be in the best interest for the defendant not to come in contact with law enforcement, as he has showed a history of obstructing, and it would be very dangerous for him as well as officers. He also has a violent arrest record, including a 2021 simple battery, a 2018 aggravated assault and arson, and a 2018 disorderly conduct, as well as he poses a significant flight risk considering the fact that he has a 2020 FTA. Again, at this time, for those reasons, the state is asking for a $4,000 surety bond, a stay away, no further contact, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while on bond. Nothing further. If the court could sound for the victim, nothing further from the state.
Miss Dunphy, Brittany Dunphy. All right, Mr. Cook.
Yes, Your Honor, my client denies the charges, particularly as they regard Miss Dunphy. He is homeless. We're trying to work with him on that issue. And as you heard, this was just a tent encampment. So again, he would have no problem with any kind of stay away provision. So we would hope, given that he has, no job and no way to make a surety bond, we would hope that he can get a signature bond.
Your Honor, just very briefly, again, for those reasons, again, he does pose a significant flight risk, as his ties to the community are very low, considering the fact that he does not have a valid address right now. So it will be hard for us to reach out to him if he is released on a signature bond. Nothing further from the state.
On each count is a $500 surety bond. The total bond is $1,000. It is a surety bond. Next court date is January 9th. No further contact with Brittany Dunphy to stay away from the attendment complex, whether it's at 502 Connell Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia, and to also stay away from 532 Cleveland Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. No violent contact with law enforcement personnel. Thank you.
We're done. Number 9, Hodges.
This is Robert Hodges, case number 23 CR 8216F, accused of criminal trespass and loitering and prowling. Mr. Hodges, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has a total of 30 arrest cycles, felony conviction in 2016 for burglary, a misdemeanor conviction in 2016 for false name, address, and birth date to law enforcement. It appears that they're on probation for burglary. That case number is 17 SC 149233. It also appears that they're on parole for aggravated assault. The last arrest was November the 4th, 2022 out of Fulton County for a probation violation. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Mr. Hollins?
Yes, Judge, state's going to be making a recommendation on the criminal trespass and loitering or prowling. On December 23rd, 2023, officers responded to the incident location for a trespass call, and they were advised by a witness there that there was a person matching the defendant's description that was near the building. Officers did go to the front of the building and saw the defendant. They ended up detaining the defendant and went back to speak with the employees. Officers were shown video surveillance footage of the defendant taking unknown objects from the property and placing them in a garbage bag. Officers were unable to locate the actual garbage bag. However, after speaking with the employees and seeing additional CCTV footage, they did have the defendant on camera taking copper wiring and metal. He does have the 32 total cycles, along with multiple probation and parole violations, including a recent one from 2022 in which his parole was revoked. The state is going to be recommending a $1,000 surety on the first count and a $2,000 surety. I'm sorry, $3,000 surety on the second count, Your Honor, and a stay away from the incident location, which is going to be 1450 Bleachfield, and that's BLEACHFIELD Street Southeast.
I have Blashfield.
I noticed that there were two different areas, Your Honor. I think the top of the warrant said something, and then the narrative of the warrant said a different.
Bleachfield. So which one is it?
I believe it's the Bleachfield. I'm verifying really quick. It's Blashfield, Your Honor, actually. So you are correct. It's BLASHFIELD.
Okay, Blashfield Drive. Yeah, okay. Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, given the nature of the charges, Mr. Hodges has been here his entire life. We would be asking for a signature bond.
Okay. On the criminal trespass is a $2,000 bond. On the loitering and prowling is $2,000. The total is a $4,000 signature bond through the jail, and this will be a release to the parole hold only. Mr. Hodges is not permitted to be released on the signature bond to the jail. He does have a parole hold with state board, so they can come pick him up to address his alleged parole violations. He is to stay 200 yards away from the location, 1450 Blashfield. I think it's Blashfield Drive, Blashfield Street, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
And Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
All right, you're done. Number 20, Reed.
Demet Warner is accused of criminal trespass and disorderly conduct, and the alleged incidents from December 23rd of this year.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I thought you said 20, Cornelius Reed.
Oh, did I hear 23 or 20?
Not Mr. Reed? Yeah, this is number 20, Mr. Reed.
Oh,
Cornelius.
I'm sorry. Okay, 20. Thank you, Ms. Cook. All right, this is Cornelius Reed in position 20, and the case number is 23 CR 8229G. Mr. Reed is accused of terroristic threats and acts from December 24th, 2023. Mr. Reed, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Tamika Cook. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has 5 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2017 for possession of Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance with intent, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. They received first offender treatment and it was sealed in 2022. The last arrest was May the 24th of this year out of Cobb County for an FTA. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 1. Nothing further to report.
All right, Ms. Reddick?
Morning, Your Honor, what we've been able to ascertain from the limited information on the warrants is that on December 24th, 2023, at 51 Springdale Drive in Atlanta, Fulton County, there was a 911 call placed. A 911 call was from the defendant where he stated that he was going to kill Ms. Diamond Moore if she broke up with him. Officers arrived at the location, saw the defendant peeking through the window, waited for backup. Once backup arrived, they knocked on the door. Defendant exited the building. They asked him why he placed the call. He said he was a bit incoherent. The officer searched the location, did not locate Ms. Diamond Moore. Officers tried to reach out to her to speak with her, and they were unsuccessful. He currently has a total bond right now, Your Honor, $5,000. We would ask that there be no further violent. We have spoken with Ms. Moore. We would ask that there be no further violent contact with this victim. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. He does not live at that location, so we would ask him to stay away from that location and engage in some alcohol, drug evaluation and treatment while he's out on bond.
All right, Ms. Diamond Moore, I do see a Diamond's iPhone on Zoom. If you'd like to address the court, you would need to unmute and start your audio.
I do apologize. I'm trying to fix the camera.
The host can prompt her to start video. There we go.
Okay.
Did
Hi.
you address?
Yes, ma'am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm this testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Tell me why there should be contact between you, your child, and Cornelius Reed.
Well, with all honesty, Cornelius does not pose a threat to me nor Ava. I'm unsure what could have happened with him that night, as I was not here. I was at a Christmas party. I do know that he may have been upset about, not being home on Christmas Eve, about 8-ish, 9-ish. But I didn't even know where Cornelius was at the time. I literally had to find him online. But we don't physically fight. We're not into that. Like, he doesn't pose a threat. I actually love him more than anything. We do reside at this location together with my best friend. All of his items are here. All of his mail comes here. I don't want him to not be a part of my life. So, but he doesn't pose a threat to me.
All right, thank you.
ma'am.
Bond's gonna be set at 1,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No violent contact with Diamond Moore, and no illegal drugs, and no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. Next court date will be sent to his current mailing address. Thank you.
All right, you go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 3, Evans Wooten.
Repeat that name again.
Evans Wooten.
Wooten. Okay, thank you. Somebody give me the position number, please.
That's position 3, Your Honor.
3.
Oh, okay, oh, that's right, hyphenated name, okay. Eric Evans Wooten is 23 CR 8217H and accused of simple battery and battery from a December 24th, 2023 incident. Mr. Evans Wooten, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Keith Cook. Would that be correct, Mr. Cook? I'm sorry?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, good, thank you. Ms. Hardy, any priors on Mr. Evans Wooten?
This defendant has a total of 5 arrest cycles in Georgia. Felony conviction in 2015 for aggravated assault, aggravated battery, and robbery. 2022 possession of Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance. Their last arrest was March the 6th, 2021 out of Gwinnett for a probation violation, and they appear to be on probation in Gwinnett County and Clayton County. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Abdullah?
Yes, Your Honor. Officers responded to a woman being beaten call at 740 West Peachtree Street on December 24th, 2023. Once they got on scene, they were able to identify 2 victims, one being a female victim who is the defendant's girlfriend by the name of Debrina Boyer. That is Debrina Boyer, Boyer, and a male victim by the name of Michael Combs, common spelling. Officers observed swelling under the female victim's, Mrs. Boyer's right eye. She told officers that her and the defendant were at a lounge when they began to argue. She tried to leave the scene of the lounge, at which time the defendant chased her down and punched her in the face. The defendant continued to attack her. When the Uber driver arrived to pick Miss Boyer up, the defendant was still attacking her. Mr. Combs heard the defendant screaming. He was able to separate the two and get the female victim into his car, at which time the defendant opened the door to the Uber and continued to hit Mrs. Boyer. Mr. Combs, the Uber driver, told the defendant to get out the car, at which time the defendant turned around and punched him in the nose. At this time, the state is asking for a $4,000 surety bond, no further contact with both victims, Michael Combs and Debrina Boyer, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while on bond, as well as anger awareness course. This recommendation is based off of the defendant's violent record. He has a 2015 conviction for ag assault and aggravated battery. He also has a 2021 obstruction charge. He poses a significant flight risk due to him having an FTA from 2020, as well as him being currently on probation and violating this probation with this arrest, and previously in 2021, he poses also a significant risk for reoffending. At this time, I believe the victim is on the Zoom call. If we could sound for him.
Mr.
Sound
Michael,
for them both.
Yeah, I will. Michael Combs, if you'd like to address the court.
Hi, how are y'all doing today?
Fine, thank you. If you'd like to address, may I place you under oath?
Yeah,
Do you solemnly swear the information you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
yes.
All right, and what would you like to tell us? I guess the only information I really need to know is, based on the information you just heard from the prosecutor, was that how it actually was in your perspective?
Yeah, like when I got there, I seen them
Could
fighting.
you lower the screen so we can see your face?
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when I got there, I seen him beating on her. And the only reason I got involved with it is because like he was bashing her head against a wall and punching her. And then he started to push her down and her head was hitting the concrete and it was making like a loud like knocking sound. So like she tried to run across the street and he pushed her down again. She hit her head again. And then he walked away, and I was just like, I don't want to see him kill her, and I don't want to see her get killed, but I didn't want to get involved in it because it really didn't have anything to do with me. So I told her to get up off the ground and get in the car. And before she can get in the car and shut the door, he jumps in the car. And I don't know. The officer said they had been drinking or something. I don't know what it was or why he was so mad or what the situation was. But I didn't want to get involved with it. I just didn't want him in my car. You know, I don't have no issue with him, her, or anything to do with that. But you know, that's something left up to you guys to handle. But when he got in the car, he did start hitting her, and then when I told him he had to get out my car, he hit me. So I was just like, I don't understand like what's taking the police so long to get there because it was like 45 minutes they were out there fighting.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Combs. Ms. Sabrina Boyer, I see you on Zoom if you want to contribute. Otherwise, we will move on. All right, Mr. Keith Cook, anything else to add?
Your Honor, only that my client denies the allegations. That's nothing further.
Yeah. On the simple battery with regards to Michael Combs, the bond's going to be set at $2,000 surety bond. With regards to the battery, with respect to Ms. Sabrina Boyer, that's going to be a $3,000 surety bond. Total bond is $5,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Michael Combs. You are not to use the Uber services, and you are to have no contact with Sabrina Boyer. You have to stay 200 yards away from both of them and not communicate with them in any way, form, or manner. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be January 9th, 2024. Yes, Mr. Evanswood?
I'd like to say, can I like request a signature? I mean, or can I have my people come in, like my property, give them my property, because all my stuff is in my property. Like my part, my cash and everything.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? I didn't understand it at all.
I'm saying I have no ability, nobody to buy me. I have the money on me, but is it any way I can go through a bond? Like, I don't have nobody to come get me. I just have my cash, my money on me.
You do have a bond. It's a $5,000 surety bond. You have to pay for the bond to be released.
Can I pay from my property, what's in my property? Or is it like, how?
Somebody outside have to pay.
Yeah, I have nobody, that's what I'm saying. I have nobody on the outside that can pay for it, but I have the money to pay for it. There's nobody to close down for me.
I'm not sure what you're asking, but you can reach out to the public defender's office. And if your wallet and your money and your items are in the records division, you have to reach out to the sheriff's department to ask them to release your items to you so you can pay for your bond. Otherwise, you would have to reach out to someone outside to assist you with paying your bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you're done. Number 23, Warner. Have a seat.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is Demet Warner, accused of criminal trespass and disorderly conduct, 23 CR 8235J, from December 23rd, 2023. Mr. Warner, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Tamika Cook. Any priors, Ms. Saudi?
This defendant has over 90 cycles with arrests out of Michigan, Georgia, and Florida. Felony conviction in 2022 for theft by receiving stolen property, 2011 forgery, 2010 theft by taking, 2008 robbery. The last arrest was June the 27th, 2021 out of Atlanta for theft by receiving and driving without a license. Recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 3. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Reddick?
Your Honor, this incident is alleged to occurred on December 23rd, 2023 at 232 Forsyth Street in Atlanta, which is the Greyhound bus station. Officers were called outside by a maintenance worker for a man that was laying on the ground, later identified as the defendant. Immediately in front of the building, the officers observed the defendant getting up and told him to leave the area. Officers noted that the defendant appeared to be intoxicated. The defendant became combative with the maintenance worker who was attempting to sweep and approached him with closed fists. Officers gave the defendant multiple other verbal commands to leave the area. And at which point, after some time, the law enforcement took the defendant into custody. Your Honor, in light of his history that was cited, the 95 cycles, he currently has a bond of $5,000 on a criminal trespass. The state will be amenable for that being reduced to $2,500. He also currently has a bond of $5,000 on disorderly conduct. The state will be amenable to that being reduced to $2,500 as well. We would ask for alcohol, drug evaluation, treatment, and screening. Anger management, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond. Stay away from the Greyhound station on Forsyth. Your Honor, we have concerns that this defendant may be residentially challenged, and we were hoping to try to get the information for him to be evaluated by PAD before this calendar.
All right, Ms. Cook?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Warner is 53 years old. He has lived in Georgia all of his life. It's my understanding that he currently stays with his aunt. He has completed 2 years of college at Phillips Junior College, studying business administration. Currently, right now, it's my understanding that he is unemployed and does not have any money coming in. We are asking the court, I do understand that he has quite a lengthy criminal history, but the purpose of bond is to ensure that a person comes back to court. And I think given his history, he's shown you that he at least is going to come back to court. So we are asking the court to give him a signature bond, unsecured judicial release through pretrial services. It's also my understanding that he also has a probation hold. He has a couple months left on probation. So he does want to also make sure that that's addressed as well. But even given his history, Your Honor, like I said, he does show up. So we're asking the court to give him a signature bond. Anything else, he's not going to be able to make financially. Nothing further.
He has a probation hold in a felony case from 2022 in which he allegedly has not reported to probation. So that's a great concern for me. The criminal trespass is $1,000 surety. The disorderly conduct is $1,000 surety. His total bond is $2,000 surety bond. He's to stay away from the Greyhound bus stations. He can return to any Greyhound bus station if he has a travel ticket that he's traveling from either station within 2 hours of him being at the station. But other than that, he has to stay away from all Greyhound stations in the city of Atlanta. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no firearms. And we will see him on January 9th. Thank you. Next case, please. Francois, position number, please.
This is number 12, Kennedy.
Okay. Is there a reason Mr. Kenny is standing up?
Yes, it is, Judge.
All right. And you're okay with it, Francois?
Yes, I don't want to disclose that, but yes.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Blake Kennedy, accused 23 CR 8221F. Mr. Kennedy has 5 misdemeanor offenses stemming from a December 25th, 2023 incident. They include 2 counts of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, 1 count of disorderly conduct, 1 count of criminal trespass, and 1 PI charge. Ms. Tamish, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and Mr. Keith Cook is going to be your attorney. Typically, I waive sounding on the PI charge, so I'm assuming all counsel are aware what the offense is. Ms. Hardy, any priors, please?
This defendant has a total of 11 arrest cycles in Georgia. Misdemeanor conviction in 2014 for obstruction of law enforcement, 2015 battery and criminal trespass. The last arrest was June the 2nd of this year out of Clayton County for a probation violation. The recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2. Nothing further to report.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yes, Mr. Cook?
I have not interviewed Mr. Kennedy. I don't know how he slipped through the cracks here. We got about 30 people today, so I don't.
All right. Francois, he will need to stand elsewhere while Mr. Keith Cook calls the jail to speak with him. I'll take the next case while.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out who,
All right, let me see. Ms. Tamisha Cook, do you have any other clients to be addressed?
no, Judge, I thought that Mr. Kennedy was already interviewed, so I was under the impression that he was already interviewed, but that's fine. We can go to the next case and do we have Mr. Simon. We're still waiting on that.
All right, let me see. Ms. Reddick, Ms. Hollins, have you all considered Mr. Simon's case?
Yes, and Miss Reddick, I'll let you
Yes,
speak.
Your Honor, we have considered the case. We believed it would be best in the best use of judicial resources that it goes with the felony case and they deal with both issues at the same time.
All right, Deputy Francois?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judge Law.
With regards to Mr. Simon, the Solicitor General's office has declined to pursue it as a separate misdemeanor case, so he would have to be readdressed at the felony first appearance tomorrow to be included with his current felony case.
Okay, so it's been upgraded to a felony. Okay.
No, it's not been upgraded. It's going to be added to the felony case as a misdemeanor offense.
So
it's just going to be part and parcel of his current felony case.
Okay, so basically in the words, he's not gonna be needed in misdemeanor for tomorrow.
Right.
Okay.
Any court has to add the offense to the open case he has right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Simon,
Anyone else we have to address? That's a Darius Snow?
Yes, Your Honor.
No.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I would like to waive his appearance. It's my understanding that he's
Okay, we will address that as a waiver of appearance. Is there anyone else in courtroom 2 who needs to be addressed other than Mr. Kennedy?
No,
that's it, Judge.
I'm sorry. I need that waiver. I need you to send me that waiver if that's what you all are gonna do.
Tamisha Cook, you need to submit a written waiver of appearance for Darius Snow.
okay.
All right, and email that. Okay. Deputy Francois, again, other than Mr. Kennedy.
Noise. Hey, Saran, can you quote? I can't hear. What you said, Judge?
Is there anyone else other than Mr. Kennedy who needs to be addressed?
No, that's it.
Okay. If you can mute courtroom 2, Mr. Cook, Keith Cook.
And then also, okay, so Mr. Snow waived his appearance. Okay, we'll get him interviewed. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Keith Cook?
Mr. Snow has been interviewed. He just can't come physically to the courtroom.
Okay, just 1 minute, Ms. Tamisha Cook. All right, Deputy Francois?
Yes,
how are you arranging for Keith Cook to talk to Mr. Kennedy?
Right now, he's currently getting on the phone, so we're good on that.
Okay.
Okay, I've connected now with the 291 or 2391. Is that the number?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I've got an open line now.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Keith Cook and courtroom 2, please mute. All right. And Miss Tamisha Cook, all right, tell me what's going on with Darius Snow.
You want to hear from the state or you want to hear from the defendant?
No, Miss Tamisha Cook first of all. She wants us to waive his appearance. So tell me what's going on.
Because he has COVID, so they won't bring him to the courtroom, Judge.
Okay. All right. And have you had a chance to speak with him?
I have.
All right. And has he indicated to you that he's agreeing to waive his appearance at this initial proceeding?
He did. He gave me express permission at 2:21.
All right. We will take note of that on record that Mr. Darius Snow has waived his appearance, and Miss Holly Bridgewater will make a note of that on Odyssey, that on record, PD counsel has waived her client's appearance. Okay. All right. So Mr. Darius Snow is accused 23 CR 8234F of simple battery against a police officer from December 23rd, 2023. And Miss Hardy, do you have priors on Mr. Darius Snow?
This defendant has 23 arrest cycles, misdemeanor conviction in 2019 for simple battery, 2020 forgery, 2022 theft by shoplifting. The last arrest was December the 19th of this year out of DeKalb for an FTA. And there also appears to be an open case in DeKalb for a PI charge. Nothing further. I'm sorry, the recommendation from pretrial is a level 4 UJR. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Reddick, yes, what is the state's recommendation on Darius Snow?
Your Honor, Mr. Stowe currently has, I don't know if I don't remember now. I'm sorry, Judge, it's late today.
That's okay, go ahead. I'll look it up. It's
our recommendation will be a $5,000 surety bond, the alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond and anger management class.
okay.
Your Honor,
He's currently in a no bond status.
Okay. The little information we have, it was officers were responding to a call on December 23rd, 2023 at 367 Edgewood Avenue Southeast in Atlanta, Fulton County. When the officers responded to a call, they were attempting to detain Mr. Snow. Mr. Snow made a bald fist and punched Officer Gonzalez in the face, at which point Officer Gonzalez took down the defendant. That's about what we know.
All right. Ms. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Snow, he's 32 years old. He's been in Georgia all his life. Currently, as my understanding, lives with his mom, has some level of college education. Currently unemployed. Previously, he's worked with Little Caesars. He was there for about 2 months. He does have a son, 12 years old. Right. My understanding is that he does have a mental health diagnosis where he supposed to take medication. At the time of his incident, he said that he did not take his meds, and that would be the basis for what occurred. We are asking the court to, because he qualifies for our services, doesn't have much money. Honestly, any bond amount that you give him in shorty status, which would amount for him to a no bond, to give him at least allow him to go along with the pretrial services recommendation, the UGAR, with the level 4 reporting. Nothing further.
Bond is going to be set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. Reset date is January 9th. No violent contact with Officer D, as in Denmark, Gonzalez, and no violent contact with APD officers. All right, while we're waiting on Mr. Kennedy's case, I am going to go down the calendar. We ready, Ms. Reddick, Mr. Hollins, Mr. Abdullah, Ms. Holly, we good?
I'm good.
Okay, let's start. Position number 1, Javon Bostic. I have no recollection of what I wrote.
I'll tell you. You did an amended bond.
That's fine.
Yeah. We have a total now of $7,500 SOB through pretrial.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for the notice. Position number 2, John Davis is a $500 surety bond. Reset date is January 9th. Position 3, Evans Wooten is a $5,000 surety bond. Reset date is January 9th. Position 4, Everett is a $1,000 surety bond. Reset date is January 9th. 5, Shakita Favors, 1,500 surety bond. Reset date January 9th. Position 6, Glass is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. Further notice. 7, Henry is a $3,000 surety bond. Reset January 9th. 8, Hill is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial. Further notice. 9, Hodges is a $4,000 signature bond through the jail with a release to the parole hold only. Position 10, Johnson is a $1,000 surety bond, reset date January 9th. 11, Tiffany Johnson is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial. 12, Blake Kennedy is on hold. 13, Marjorie King is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. Further notice. 14, Lavel's a $5,000 signature bond through the jail with a release to the hold only. Position 15, Lloyd is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial. Further notice. 16, Lundy is a $10,000 surety bond, reset date January 9th. 17 is a $1,000 surety bond, reset date January 9th. Position 18, Montgomery is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial, further notice. And that's a level 2 reporting for Montgomery. Position 19 is a $6,500 signature bond through pretrial services, further notice. 20, Reed is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial, further notice. 21, Smith is a $2,000, it's a $5,000 split bond, reset date January 9th. 22, Darius Snow is a $1,000 surety bond, reset January 9th. 23, Warner is a $2,000 surety bond, reset date January 9th. 24, White is a $1,000 surety bond, reset date January 9th. Tobias Woods is a $3,000 signature bond through the jail, released to DeKalb County hold only. All right. Any corrections, Ms. Bridgewater?
No, Judge, you did great.
Oh, except for position 1. Thank you.
What was number 1?
Position 1. Okay, then what did I do?
It was an amended bond. Judge Morrow heard it on Friday. So the total amended bond is $7,500 with an SOB through pretrial on a level 2 basis.
Yeah, battery is 5,000, simple battery is 2,500.
So it's 75, okay.
Yeah. How are we doing with Kennedy?
Yeah, well, I had spoken to him, but her actually. She says her name is Lavel Johnson, and I did speak to Lavel Johnson, although I don't think she's on the calendar. So that's what the confusion was. So we can go forward with, I don't know how we go forward, under Kennedy or Lavel Johnson.
All right. Let's address case number 23 CR 8221F, State versus Blake Kennedy, also known as Lavel Johnson.
So, Judge, okay, no problem.
All right. And Deputy Francois, could you unmute courtroom 2, please? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Judge Law. How would you like to be addressed? You need to speak up. Speak up, please.
Judge, it's a MH.
Okay. What's your last name?
Johnson.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So this is State versus Blake Kennedy, also known as Johnson. You are charged with 5 offenses: willful obstruction of law enforcement officer, 2 counts, 1 count of disorderly conduct, 1 count of criminal trespass, and 1 count of public indecency, since no one is in the courtroom at the present time. This is from a December 25th, 2023 incident. You have been advised of your right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Keith Cook. Ms. Hardy, any priors on this individual?
This defendant has 11 arrest cycles in Georgia, misdemeanor conviction in 2014 for obstruction of law enforcement, 2015 battery and criminal trespass. The last arrest was June the 2nd, 2023 out of Clayton County for a probation violation. And the recommendation from pretrial is a UJR level 2, nothing further.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hollins?
Yes,
What's the
Judge.
state recommendation?
Yes, Judge. So the factual basis for this is that the officers noticed the defendant with pants off at the incident location, which is 1977 MLK Junior Drive Southwest. And when they arrived, the defendant ended up what looked as if he was going to defecate on the wall. Officers then approached the defendant, but he quickly pulled his pants up and ran towards the sidewalk. At this time, he turned around, pulled out what officers believed to have been an object. At the time, they believed it to be a handgun because he pulled it out, put it under his shirt, and pointed it towards them, and then ran towards the sidewalk. At the same time, the officers then pulled out their service handguns, giving him commands to drop whatever he had multiple times. The defendant did not do that. The defendant ended up running away after that. The officers were able to cut him off. They discharged their tasers twice, pepper sprayed, and the defendant was eventually apprehended. I have some history out of Kentucky, Your Honor, and it looks like there is potential that he is a fugitive out of Kentucky, along with a 2023 FTA out of Kentucky, and there's some history regarding the same PI charge that we have. Going back from there's 2020 again, and then 2021. The state does believe that there are some MH concerns there, as there is 5 charges in 2020 alone that dealt with potentially that. There's currently a $5,000 surety bond on each of the counts, Your Honor. The state would recommend keeping those the same. We are going to request an MH eval. Along with, we will be reaching out to PAD to see if there's any additional services that they can give, along with a stay away from the incident location, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Cook? Yes, sir?
Yes, it's a little confusing. The defendant has been in a homeless shelter. I believe the solicitor's office listed him as someone who might be a candidate for PAD. He has no money, so obviously a surety bond would be impossible for him. So we would be looking, given the nature of the charges, we would be looking for a signature bond.
All right. On each count of the willful obstruction is $250. On the disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, and the PI charge are $500 each. His total bond is $2,000. It is a surety bond to stay away from the 1977 MLK Junior Drive location, which is the Texaco gas station. He's to stay 200 yards away from that location. His next court date is going to be January 9th. At which point then either Mr. Cook, your office, or the state can make a recommendation for an MH evaluation, and possibly whether he qualifies for our 11 o'clock calendars for SAP. So the total is a $2,000 surety bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. That concludes the cases, Francois. Anything else?
Yes, we're completed. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you later. Thank you.
All right. Happy holidays. Thanks.
You too. Mr. Cook, I've already gone over the calendar with Ms. Tamisha Cook can give you an update.
Sure. I'd marked down pretty much everything. I'll check with her to fill in the gap.
All right. And
Thank you.
Then I will see everybody on Thursday then. Until then, be good. All right, Ms. Bridgewater. See you soon. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Everybody.